This is Jocko Podcast number 395 with Carrie Helton and me, Jocko Willink. Good evening, Carrie.
Good evening.
Also join us tonight, Leif Babin. Good evening, Leif.
Good to be here.
Echo, still not here.
Still.
I guess people are getting worried. Look, not that they don't like Carrie Helton, but he's got that, he's like the people's champion.
Absolutely.
They like the Echo Charles.
Echo Charles, man of the people.
And so they're kind of wondering where he's at. Don't worry, everybody. Echo will be back. He's on important, strenuous business right now.
Important,
strenuous business right now in Hawaii. In the meantime, let me tell you this. The colonel expected the highest level of discipline from his 1st to the 506th soldiers. He knew that slacking here, even when just going to the chow hall for lunch, could result in horrific wounds and death. Discipline in such a situation started with the little things: high and tight haircuts, a clean shave every day, and uniforms maintained. With that, the more important things fell into place: body armor and helmets worn outdoors at all times, and weapons cleaned and ready for use at a moment's notice. Discipline created vigilance and operational readiness, which translated to high performance and success on the battlefield. We sent Task Unit Bruiser SEALs from Delta Platoon to live and work out of Camp Corregidor to train and combat advise Iraqi soldiers there and support the 1st of the 506 Band of Brothers. When the SEAL element arrived, they humbly took on the same habits as their 1st of the 506th hosts. Despite more relaxed grooming standards SEALs typically enjoy elsewhere, the SEALs at Camp Corregidor cropped their hair short, shaved every day, and even donned the same ACU Army combat uniform camouflage of their Army counterparts. And that right there is a little excerpt from a book called Extreme Ownership, which was written by Leif and me. That is from chapter 4. Check your ego. And the reason we're pulling that quote today is not to talk about ego, well, at least not initially, but more to talk about culture inside of an organization. The 1st of the 506 from the 101st Airborne is one of those units in the military that has an incredibly strong culture. When we worked with them, you could absolutely recognize and feel the culture that they have. And there are a lot of military units that have a strong culture inside of their organization. And there's also civilian companies and businesses that have strong cultures inside of their organization. I know that in Task Unit Bruiser, we had a strong culture inside of Task Unit Bruiser. You could say the same thing that we've got at Echelon Front. The Marine Corps, Carrie?
Yes, sir.
How's the culture in the Marine Corps? Report.
It is one of the strongest cultures I've ever experienced.
I agree. I think that the Marine Corps has one of the strongest cultures in any organization in the world. I know that's a bold statement, but the Marine Corps has got an extremely strong culture. The SEAL team culture. The SEAL teams actually has a very strong culture. Some of it good, some of it not good. You could say the same thing about the Marine Corps as well. There's parts of any culture that can be negative. In the SEAL teams, we have some outstanding culture, and we also have some culture that hurts us. Sometimes they're similar, right? We don't have much doctrine in the SEAL team. The culture is that you can kind of figure it out, which is kind of good because it makes you very flexible. But also, there's times when it'd be nice if you had some doctrine. There's a culture in the SEAL teams of bending rules. Would you say that's an accurate statement, Leif?
Definitely accurate.
Now, when you went through BUDS, did you guys say, if you're not cheating, you're not trying?
Yes, that's a pretty common saying.
And did your instructors reinforce that, or did they pull you back towards following the rules?
I mean, if we're in like a Boku race and you got busted cheating, I mean, you paid the man for that, certainly. So I think there were folks who tried to push that, certainly, and I think I would say my instructors largely tried to bash that out of us. Like, hey, if you're cheating on this, you're not following the rules. Like, we're gonna drop a hammer on you.
Yeah.
So,
and at the same time,
you're only cheating yourself.
Yeah, well, we definitely got told you're only cheating yourself. The thing is, and I think I talked about this with Ben Milligan for sure, talking about from his book, By Water Beneath the Walls. Worst title ever, Ben.
Awesome book, though.
Probably one of the best. It actually is the best historical book about the SEAL teams. But the title, which I've been harassing Ben about since I met him, and I actually harassed him about the title of each and every chapter that he's got, which is long. But what an incredible writer and what an incredible job he did on that. But that's one of those things where you can see where the culture comes from. And if you think about what your overall strategic goal as a special operations warrior is, we're going to figure out a way to cheat against the enemy, right? Like you want to be able to sneak up on the enemy, catch him when he's not looking, sucker punch him, deceive him in any way possible.
Never fight fair.
Right, never fight fair. These are all attitudes that make sense. They're part of our culture. And you can see where if you're actually looking for guys that have that kind of attitude, there's some, you're borderline, or you're brushing up against a criminal mindset, right? Which is, I'll break rules, I don't care. And you kind of need some of that in a SEAL platoon. If every single person is a rule follower, you're not going to be able to do your job at the highest level, because everyone's going to look at a problem and they're only going to solve that problem within the rule set, whatever that rule set might be. Maybe it's just the doctrine, but if you have someone that says, hey, we wouldn't need to follow these freaking rules, which you are going to have in a SEAL platoon, at least 3 guys that are like, why would we do it like that? Let's do it this way. Let's cut this corner. Let's figure out how to do this. Let's trick them. Let's deceive them. They're going to cheat. So that's the type of thing where it's really good for your culture. That being said, if you have a guy that now is supposed to be following the rules of a city or a state, and he decides, look, I don't have to follow the rules. I'm a special operations dude, so I'm looking how I can get away from these rules. That culture needs to be reined in, and you need to really kind of put some guardrails up around your culture. Same thing with the Marine Corps. I mean, can you imagine the Marine Corps in World War II? You're like, hey, we want you to kill everybody, which is what they were doing. You're going into Iwo Jima. What are your rules? Kill everybody. Then the war ends, and now all of a sudden you're in mainland Japan, and you're doing basically security force operations, which you can read about in Eugene Sledge, China Marine. That's like you gotta be able to just pull that culture back from killing everyone to being a diplomat, a warrior diplomat. So things are good, things are bad. The culture, what I'm saying is the culture will be strong. Culture is strong. And if you don't have control over the culture, it can definitely cause problems. Throughout the book About Face, Hackworth, he continually refers back to this unit that he worked with early in his career. And he says this in About Face: for the next 4 years, I learned my trade. 1 year with the recon company of the Tank Battalion in the Po Valley, and 3 more with Trieste, United States Troop, Trust. The illustrious unit whose 5,000 hand-picked members Walter Winchell called, quote, the chrome-plated soldiers of Europe, end quote. We worked hard during those years. Long, merciless days of training, repeating, until we got it right. Our transformation into soldiers inspired and monitored by those battle-savvy NCOs who well knew that discipline and tactical proficiency on the battlefield were direct results of discipline and combat skills instilled on the parade and training grounds. At night, it was down on our hands and knees, all of us hand-waxing the barracks floors until we had enough money to chip in and buy a buffer. You could eat off those floors, just as you could almost be blinded by the brass belt buckles and brown boots that each of us wore. polished every night to a dazzling finish. The only way out of these activities was sick call, but rarely was it used as an excuse. It took as much effort to see the dock. You had to strip your bed, cram your perfectly pressed clothes into a duffel bag, see the supply sergeant and then the first sergeant, not to mention the lion's share of the month's pay you'd spend having clothes repressed when you came back, as it did to continue on with the normal routine. Punishment was meted out by a process known as NCO justice. And if I ever create another hardcore band, I might call it NCO justice. For crimes such as a uniform of less than starched perfection, a bed that didn't bounce a quarter, or even a mildly insubordinate smirk, the sentence could range from 50 push-ups to double timing around the parade field, holding a 9.5-pound M1 rifle over your head, yelling, "I'm a shithead, I'm a shithead," until you collapsed. General of the Army George Catlett Marshall once said, "Morale is a state of mind. It is steadfastness and courage and hope, confidence and zeal and loyalty, esprit de corps and determination. Morale," he said, "is staying power, the spirit which endures to the end, the will to win." These words could have been the motto of the 15th Tank, and for that matter, all of Trust, a command that really did live 20 regular Army years behind the times. So you can see when you've got a unit like that, everybody, I mean, he was a private soldier at the time, Hackworth, and he knew what he was doing. He knew what the standard was. He knew how he was supposed to act. That's a culture. And you get culture in the civilian sector too. Tesla. What's the culture at Tesla? Dudes are sleeping on the floor, right? Like you're working 22-hour days. Remember when Elon Musk bought Twitter and he got rid of what, 2/3 of the staff, something like this? 2/3 of the staff later. It might have even been more. It might have been 3/4
I
of the
think
staff.
it was 80% of employees.
Yeah, so he was getting rid of people. And then I remember seeing a picture on Twitter, and he had like this core group left, and it was 2:00 in the morning, and they were grinding it out. And he was basically like, yeah, the culture just changed. The culture was, remember that video that floated around, some girl, she was like, work day at Twitter. And it was like her getting a cup of coffee, then her sitting in a lounger, then her getting a massage, then her, like it was just this whole day of leisure, basically. And it was like, oh, I have a meeting now. And then in the meeting, they were, laughing and joking around. And then it goes to Musk in 2:00 in the morning, and they're all freaking grinding and eating like they're eating a midnight pizza so they can work more. There's a culture shift. The culture shift can happen, right? And he did that culture shift there with like a baseball bat. Tesla, SpaceX, like that's what you hear about those places. You're gonna get, if you want to go work there, you're gonna get after it in a big way. That's the culture. Apple, culture of innovation. So you end up with culture inside these organizations, and the culture that you have is just so powerful. The culture is going to be stronger than the leader over time, but it's the leader that can set that culture in motion. And yet, and I've told many companies and organizations this, who's responsible for culture inside of an organization? Everybody. Because if you have the E5 mafia, their culture can overpower the culture of the boss. The mid-level managers, if they've got like a strong culture within the mid-level managers, they can overpower the more senior managers. Just their culture is stronger. If it's good, that can be great. If their culture is bad, it's going to be a problem. So, we were just thinking about what do we do with culture? How do we set culture? How do we make it happen? How do you establish a good culture? Because ultimately, and this is something we've been talking about at Echelon Front a lot, is culture is the ultimate form of decentralized command. And if somebody is part of a culture, a strong culture inside of an organization, they know what they need to do. They understand what the mission is, and what they understand who they are, what they're doing, how they're doing it. You understand all those things from culture, which is a pretty crazy thing. I wrote that down somewhere. I wrote this earlier. I took a note. Culture is who you are, what you do, and how you do it. I never thought of that before, but I was trying to think of like what specifically is culture. It's who you are, it's what you are, it's what you do, and it's how you do it. That's what culture is. It's those things right there. Again, this is my thought today. Maybe somebody will expand on it. Maybe I'm wrong, but it seems like a pretty good thing, right? This is who we are. This is what we do. This is how we're doing it. That's a legit statement. So let's talk about it a little bit. How do you establish culture? And I think the number one thing out of the gate is set the example. Like, what example are you setting? We just talked about Elon Musk. He's working at 2:00 in the morning alongside his people. Remember when there was something wrong, I think at Tesla or SpaceX, and they had pictures of him. He's just sleeping in his office on the floor. That's the culture. That's the culture that he set. We're going to work hard. So the culture that you set, the way that you act, the example that you fall under is the way it's going to be. So when I got to Team 1, you want to know when that was, Kerry?
When was that?
Oh, that was back in the day. So when I got to Team 1 as a young kid, I show up there, and the culture was so strong at SEAL Team 1. And it was a culture of sort of extreme professionalism. Now, was it extreme professionalism compared to the Marine Corps? No, it was not. Was it extreme professionalism compared to the regular Navy? It was like, yeah, we kind of were on board or could compete with the professionalism of the regular Navy, and we certainly were more professional in our uniforms and haircuts and all that stuff was than, say, Team 5 down the street or Team 3 down the street as well. This was a well-known thing. You saw that when you got there. You saw like all the senior people, all the chiefs and the senior chiefs, they all freaking look squared away. What was it like when you checked into Team 5, Leif? What do you have going on there? Which was what, 2000 and...
I checked into SEAL Team 5 in August 2003.
Yeah, so the culture, look, there's still some of the culture, but as Admiral Richards explained when he came on the podcast, around 2000, they started an initiative which made all the teams pretty much have the same mission around the world. Back in the day, the teams all had their own, they were geographically assigned. So back in the day, I was at SEAL Team 1, and our area of operations was Southeast Asia, NAM. Now, it was 1990, which, just meant we were going to like Thailand. And SEAL Team 3 was Southwest Asia, so they had the desert. And then SEAL Team 5 was, I guess, Northeast Asia, because they were the cold weather Korea guys. And you all had different assignments, and then you got to like stay at a SEAL team for a long time. Like there was guys that were at SEAL Team 1 that had been there for like 15 years, 12 years. It was no big deal for a guy to be at Team 1 for 10 years. You just, oh yeah, I'm at Team 1. Oh, when did you get here? Like, 1974. You're like, hey, that's awesome. Then they made, so you had the teams they were more separate, and because you could homestead at a team and those people that set the examples were there for a long period of time, the cultures at each one of the teams was very different. So, but when you got to Team 5, 2003, so that only happened in 2000, and then it actually started to fully take place in 2001. So when you got to Team 5 still had the reputation of like, hey, we're laid back, we're team guys, we don't really have to comply with
by laid back, I think they were, Team 5 certainly had the reputation of partying hard and working hard, but certainly playing hard, and maybe playing harder than the other teams down the street. Originally I had orders to SEAL Team 1 out of buds, and or at least that was what I was going to get, and because of the rotation cycle,
they rejected you.
Exactly. I didn't make the cut. No, but because of the rotation cycle, I was going to jump right into a platoon commander tour.
Yeah.
Like I would have missed. And I was already a lieutenant, so
yeah.
I would have missed having an assistant platoon commander tour under my belt, which I didn't want to do. And luckily, I had some friends that pulled some strings for me. And over Team 5, they're like, "Yeah, come on over here. We'll get you in. We'll plug you in." So they were just starting their workup cycle. So as I showed up, the first guys were coming back from the Iraq War from SEAL Team 5. They were just getting back. I think they got back September of 2003.
Yeah.
I
turned over with
which
those
you
guys,
turned
yeah.
over with, yeah. So that was, but there was still very much it was Stalag 1, it was the definitely like it still kind of had that reputation, even though that was it was definitely starting to dissipate a little bit. But then I think certainly there was some real pride in Team 5 of like, hey, we get after on the battlefield, but there was definitely a reputation for. The squared away haircuts and uniforms, it was the opposite of that, certainly. A lot of visors and cut up uniforms and however we can not look military was was certainly the case.
One of my best friends that I went through buds with and then checked into Team 1 with, and you know who he is. He's like just a complete just like a Viking freaking warrior dude that if you could, he's on the list. If you're going to war, he's on the list. Like he's on the list 100%. And everybody knows, like he's just a savage. And we showed up and we were going on our first run at SEAL Team 1 and he came walking out with a visor on. And Master Chief Faculty walks up to him and is just like, if I ever see you with a visor again, I'm sending you to the fleet. I mean, we just graduated buds, bro. There was no in brief. It was like, hey, we're doing whatever it was, the Coronado run. It's like a 7-mile run. We roll out there, first big run with now you're at a team and we're all fired up. And this friend of mine rolls out with that visor on, the green faded visor. And Master Chief just walks over to him and is like, if I ever see you with a visor again, I'm sending you to the fleet. And I was like, God, okay. So there you go. We also had this when you're it's weird how you, like what you just said, you're at Team 5 and you're like, oh, this is our thing. And you get told that and you're like, okay, that's you take on that culture almost immediately. Like it's you can watch it happen. Like that happened with my buddy and I was like, okay, cool. Visors are lame. Visors are weak. Like we don't wear those. That was part of it. There was also this, some of the older guys would say team 1. It's not just a number. It's an attitude. And you'd be like, yo, we're 1. We're 1. You know what? Next question. Of course we're 1. Number 1. That's us. That's our attitude. We're number 1. And you hear that. And you're 19 years old and you're like, well, obviously this is what we're doing. This is what is happening. So that example that you see, and when you're part of an organization, that's the number one thing you do. That's the number one thing you do to start establishing culture is you have to set the example that you believe the culture should be. And this is what I saw with when I got to Team 1, and even what you're saying, like you got to Team 5 and it was like things are a little bit loose. We're going to work really hard, but we're not getting dressed up. We don't have to do this dumb shit. We're not doing this chicken shit stuff. We're freaking badass team guys. Okay, that's your attitude. That's what you're doing. So certainly setting the example is important. You got to remember that people are watching you. Establishing who you are, and there's a couple different ways to do that. One of them clearly is the one of the many things I stole from Hackworth, which is giving your team a name. And I can't tell you how many construction companies I've worked with now and sales teams, and they've taken this and they've named their sales team and they've named their construction shift. Like this is very common and it freaking works. So Hackworth in the Korean War, he took over Foxtrot or Fox Company, changed it to Fighter Company. He gets to Vietnam battalion commander, he takes over the hopeless and changes it to the hardcore. That And then, when I took over task unit Bravo, which is a lame name, but changed it to Bruiser. And it's funny because that's not an official thing. Well, it wasn't an official thing, but it sure is official now. You know what I mean? Like, you can see it in, when we talk to the people that are still in the SEAL teams, they talk about it. That's the way it is. That's what it was. Pretty neat. Just established.
What's funny about that? I was just reviewing my copy of About Face, which is which you gave to me as Task Unit Bruiser. Went our separate ways when we came back from Ramadi in the fall of 2006, and you didn't you just handed me a copy of it, and I had you write in it. And it just says to Snow from JKO, and then the date is it's January 2007.
Check.
So, but what's awesome about that, as I was reading through that book, that's the first time that I realized okay, where this thing came from, is this new identity that Hackworth had given his units, with the fighter company and the hardcore recondos. I think it's. And so at the time, I remember when we're like, hey, we're tasking a bruiser. And it was...
Did you see how Leif's voice changed when he said that? He just stepped up next level.
But you said that and we're like, I mean, when I first heard that, it was kind of like, it wasn't even, it wasn't like people weren't like, oh, we're tasking a bruiser. It was instantly, you're like, tasking a bruiser. Okay, it gave us an identity, and it was something that just... instantly we stood apart from everybody else. And I think it's the genius of that. It was something that at the time, I didn't really give it a lot of thought. I was like, okay, cool, we're tasking a bruiser, whatever, But then as it very quickly became we're freaking tasking a bruiser. Yeah. They're tasking Alpha, they're tasking Charlie, we're tasking a bruiser.
Yeah. And you'd get the skipper would be like, oh, the bruiser guys are going to come down like that. They would say those kind of things, and you'd be like, yeah, exactly. The bruiser guys are coming down. That's what's happening. I just thought of this, going back to that example thing real quick. I remember talking to General Mukayama, and he's talking about how when Hackworth showed up, and I was asking oh, did you guys know who he was? He's like, yeah, everybody knew who he was. And then he says, yeah, he walks in, and he's high and tight haircut. His uniform is just impeccable. He's got that look on his face. He's lean. He's strong. And you could just tell. And you're like, bro. And this is Hackworth. And the funny thing is, you look at pictures of Hackworth, he's a pretty slight dude, but he just presented himself in a way. He set the example. He wasn't even in a battalion at that time. He was just setting that example.
Well, that was pretty... You followed that model pretty well, man, because when you came over from being the Admiral's aide, and so we had all kind of formed up and been together for a couple weeks, and Seth Stone and I, the Del Patinkin man, were good friends. We've been through buds together, we'd known each other, for several years at that point. And I was excited to work with Seth, but we got along, our hair. It wasn't that our hair was we had haircuts. But we definitely didn't have shaved heads, that's for sure. And then, when you showed up with this, just straight up axe murderer look, but your uniform was immaculate. Your head was shaved, and you just glared at everyone and didn't really say anything. And and when we met you, you were like, I'm Jocko, squeezed our hand, and didn't say anything. And it was, but it definitely set the tone right away of oh, this guy scored away. Oh, this guy's got a shaved head. This guy has a scored away uniform, and you never hey, this is what we're going to look like. But you certainly brought that example in, and then so when it became tasking a bruiser, it was it immediately gave us we're unique. We're unique. We're different from everybody else. We're different, and certainly that can be in a bad way. Oh, yeah. If the culture went that direction. But for us, it meant hey, we're unique, we're special. It's too hard for everybody else. We're good. We're tasking a bruiser. We're going to work harder. We're going to come in early. We're going to stay late. We're going to make things happen. And it just started to immediately establish that culture. And you lived that. I mean, it was. I just remember you totally standing out from we had a formation behind SEAL Team 3. So it was the whole team's formed up. It's the first time the team's actually getting together. People are coming in, from different units. And it was, I'd never seen you before. I'd heard about you, and we certainly knew of your reputation, but you instantly looked different than every other SEAL back there. just with the shaved head and squared away uniform. And I was like, check.
I can tell you, when I was at SEAL Team 1, I put in for the Seaman or Admiral package, and I didn't get picked up. And then the first class got picked up, and shortly after they got picked up, they went to OCS, and then one of those officers that was a SEAL, an East Coast SEAL, he went to OCS, and he came out to the West Coast to Team 1. So now I'm an E5 at Team 1, and this ensign shows up from the Seaman Admiral program. And I was looking at him going, dude, what is going on with this guy's freaking uniform? He looked 100% next level squared away. And I didn't know what was happening, but if you stood him, same thing, like if you put him in a line with 10 other officers and you said, which one of these guys do you want to, are you going to put your trust in? You'd be look at him and you go, I think this guy over here, he looks freaking squared away. And then I went to officer candidate school, and that's where he learned to do that. And the freaking uniform inspections are so psycho down there. Like, you wear those shirt stay things, and did you wear shirt stays? Yeah, you wear these shirt stay things, and you tuck everything in, and everything's tight, and it's ridiculous. But damn, you look freaking squared away. And then so anyways, that's where I definitely got at OCS. And you probably got, I guess you might have gotten some uniform inspections in BUDS, but those aren't real uniform inspections, at least in my opinion. Are you differing opinion?
Well, I mean, I had spent a lot of time having uniform inspections through 4 years of the Naval Academy.
Well, that's what I was going to say.
Yeah.
You did 4 years of the Naval Academy doing uniform inspections, but then you went to the fleet.
Dude,
then you're out there and
our uniforms were immaculate at BUDS, man. I'm talking like boot shine, like totally pressed, like, the grease uniforms.
Yeah,
and totally dialed. And I passed every single one of those, and I got hammered every single time because I was the class OIC.
Yeah, of course.
So if one person fails, which they always do.
Yeah. And I thought of a funny story too. When I took over a platoon at SEAL Team 7, the assistant platoon commander, so he was working for another guy, now he's working for me, and we're having like our first conversation. And he's a great dude, but we don't know each other, so he's like, hey, is there anything we're like wrapping up at the end of our first day working together, and he's like, is there anything else I need to do? And I was like, yeah, go get a haircut. And he goes, I just got a haircut. And I said, like mine. So he said, roger that. Good times.
What I think what really stands out to me though is like, not only did you demonstrated this through by setting the standard yourself, but what it started for me and what it started for Seth Stone, and I think for a lot of us in Tasking and Bruiser, was what we thought was cool, in the SEAL teams. Like at SEAL Team 5, what I thought was cool is the guys that like, yeah, man, that guy's kind of like, hey, that guy's an awesome operator, but yeah, he might have got arrested on the weekends, but who cares? Like he's an awesome operator, and that's what you want to be. And who cares if his uniform's not squared away and his hair is messed up? Like, we kind of take pride in that. And I think what it started to do was that the professionalism of like, oh, it's actually cool to be squared away. It's actually cool to have a squared away looking uniform. It's actually cool to be the most squared away looking guy in the entire formation and to have your head shaved and you stand out apart from everybody else. And so that started to kind of change my mind and I didn't even realize it at the time, because we're just meeting you for the first time.
And just FYI, everybody, this is not to say that you should not be freaking the hardest operator that you can possibly be. By all means, this isn't like because there's dudes that are super admin freaking dorks, garrison freaking warriors, right? That are super squared away, but they suck as being SEALs. So that's not what we're talking about at all.
No, I'm saying what it was we're talking about both. We're talking about like, hey, we want to be.
They're not mutually exclusive at all.
We want, and I didn't see it that way because it almost seemed cool to make it mutually exclusive instead of looking at it as like, hey, no, we want to be the most awesome, badass operators we can be on the battlefield and train ourselves for the worst case scenario. And in garrison, we want to be squared away. We want to have shaved heads. We want to have we want to be professional, and we want to be as professional and squared away as we can possibly be in both arenas.
Yeah, it's it's definitely a different mindset, but it's real easy to see. It's real easy to see the difference. And if you take people that aren't focused on that, and look, there's plenty of SEALs that are freaking awesome, but they just never focused on that. No one ever told them like, hey, I'm going to send you to the fleet if you wear a visor. I got told that, or my buddy got told that. It's like, so we were focused on that. And then, you start to just see it that way. And if you didn't get that, you wouldn't ever look at it. It's just one of those things. If you're not paying attention to it, you're not paying attention to it. So it's not like some other SEAL at Team 3 at the time was a bad person. They didn't even think about their uniform. They didn't even think about it. It wasn't even a thing. They're like, oh yeah, I put my boots on. Oh, well, it doesn't really matter what they look like. Or they're just not thinking about it at the time. But when you think about it, and it's not like we're competing against the uniforms or the squared away uniforms of the Marine Corps, because like they would win. Like there's no SEAL platoon that could beat a Marine platoon in an inspection of any kind. Like it's just not possible. But if you're even leaning in that direction, you could do pretty good against the other SEAL platoons, because that's just
the bar's low.
The bar's pretty low. That's like when SEALs have to do some kind of close order ceremonial drill, they do whatever they can to minimize it as much as possible. Like, hey, okay, everyone, we're going to go out prior to and be standing in formation where we need to be, because if we have to march out there, it's going to be a disaster. So we'll all just go out there and stand for an extra half an hour, so that way we don't have to march out there. So there you go. Establish who you are. The other thing that I was going to say, and there's a little bit of risk involved here, but coming up with some kind of values out of the gate, coming up with some kind of mantra out of the gate is something that you can do. And actually, I wish I had this. Stoner did this. When Stoner took over the task unit, and he didn't really, I can't say, and he would refuse to say that he took over task unit bruiser, because he's like, we're not task unit bruiser. We're not. Because they split up a bunch of the guys, and he really only had the remnants of task unit bruiser. So he just ended up taking over a position of being in the task unit. But he wrote out, like, this is what we're doing. And he had it pinned up, and I was like, freaking legit. Quite frankly, I think that my personality conveyed all that shit that he had written down. Like, it just conveyed it. But when I saw that, I was like, it's freaking squared away, dude. Nicely done. He had made little letterhead. Stoner, he'd get all crazy. He'd made little task unit 2, because I think they had changed to the number system or something. Task unit 2, whatever, values and focus. And then it said, we're going to do this, we're going to do this, we're going to do this. And it was like, we're going to train harder than anybody else. It's like all the normal stuff, but he had written it out, so it made it perfectly clear. So that is something that you can do. The only risk of it is if you roll into somewhere and now you're just from the top creating values and imposing them on everybody. It's gonna have a better. It's gonna gain more traction if it evolves over time. If it comes more organically from the troops themselves. And even Hackworth, taking over the 439th, it was like, we're gonna change small things. He changed little things at a time. He didn't go and like, here's the way it's going to be now. He did say like, okay, anything you can't freaking travel with in a rucksack, we're getting rid of it. They're like, what the hell are you talking about? That was one step. And eventually it's like, yeah, we travel light. So you gotta think about that. You gotta think to the extent of which you do that. And I would say probably a good compromise or a good move would be to set out some sort of minimum aspirational ideas, like we're going to work hard, like something that people aren't really going to be able to argue with without being super detailed. Because even if I said, all right, listen, we're going to look squared away and inspection ready. I can't imagine if that would have been my leading like idea, I wouldn't have liked me. You know what I mean? When I was in E5, I would have been like, what's this guy talking about, dude? We're freaking SEALs. We're operators. Like, who cares what we look like? So, but if it would have said, hey, we're going to work hard and we're going to be exceptional at our jobs, you're like, I can get on board with that. So I think if you're going to set up some values like that out of the gate, or some kind of a mantra, and the mantra is another thing. The mantra is something that can come, it's better off coming organically. And so you end up with something like BTF. You end up with something like Semper Fi. You end up with never quit. You end up with something that comes organically. BTF's a good one. Like that was just Tony just started saying it, but it became
BTF.
Just, big tough frog man, meaning it's an adjective. Yeah, this guy's it's a noun. This guy's a big tough frog man. It's a verb. We're gonna BTF. It's a motivational chant. BTF. So, but it just came organically. And yet it answered so many questions. It was part of the culture, because the culture is, hey guys, should we do another immediate action drill in the 120-degree heat, or should we call it a day? We all know the answer to that. The answer is BTF. The answer is just, we know what we're doing. It's BTF. That's what we're going to do. Should I say that I'm hot right now and it's very sweaty and I feel like it's too warm out, or should I just not say anything? It's like, oh, I'm going to BTF. Should, when I'm freezing cold, say like, hey guys, I'm cold. Can I get in the Humvee and wait until we hit the target before I go outside? Or should I just BTF? The answer is you're just going to BTF.
But back to your open discussion about like, if you're not cheating, you're not trying, and how that can become part of the culture. I mean, that was very prevalent when I joined the SEAL teams. Like, people were debating about like, the old school years, from the 90s of like, hey, we're going to do the, we're going to drop you off for the 14, kilometer patrol in. Like, hey, we roll open vehicles now. We don't need to do that stuff anymore. And there was an attitude of some people in the teams that like, hey, we don't need to do that. Like, hey, you know what? Hey, we'll just have we'll just virtually say we foot patrolled in, and then you'll drop us off at this point here, and we'll go hit in 500 yards. We'll go hit the so we'll cut down what should be a 2.5 kilometer patrol into the last 500 meters,
or a 10.5 kilometer patrol.
Yeah, and we weren't even doing that kind of stuff just because of the largely urban focused combat of Iraq. I don't think I ever did a 10.5 kilometer patrol in, but we were doing 2 or 3 kilometer patrols and over some rugged terrain, certainly. But guys were cutting that down to where they were like, no, we're just gonna
on the X.
Yeah, we'll just get dropped off right there. And it was, I think for BTF answered that to say like, hey, you don't foresee a situation where we might have to foot patrol. And ironically, it was, you right away were like, there was no, for Tony, like for the culture in the task unit was like, hey, we're not gonna ask for breaks. Why? Because we may actually have to foot patrol it. And ironically, when we deployed to Ramadi, it was so freaking dangerous to drive on these roads. I mean, 80% of U.S. casualties are being inflicted by IEDs or roadside bombs. So we would drive to the nearest, safest roads we could get to, like the nearest combat outpost, and then we would foot patrol into these areas because you couldn't drive into them. So we did a hell of a lot of foot patrolling all the time, carrying a ton of weight on our backs. And if we hadn't have done that, we wouldn't have been prepared for it. So, in fact, even still, I don't think I was as prepared as I should have been, because the first patrol I went out with the Marines was just kick my ass on that patrol, trying to carry the gear I needed in water and ammo and stuff for 48 hours, in around Firecracker Circle up there with Lima Company 38 Marines. So I think but that BTF mantra, was like, yeah, we're not looking to cut corners. We're looking to train hard. We're looking to push the standards higher. And that was part of that unique identity of being task unit bruiser. Mm-hmm. We're different than everybody else. We're going to push the standards harder. Oh, they wanted to get dropped off near the target. We don't. Can we get dropped off further away so that we can actually train ourselves and push ourselves harder?
Dude, I went to a couple debriefs with Tradette. So at the end of a training block, we would go to Tradette, and Tradette would debrief the skipper and us on like performance. But before that, we would debrief Tradette on like how the training was and what could be better and what could be improved. And like I'd go in there, and unfortunately, like especially one of the other task units would be like when they'd say, well, they'd give their feedback, and it would be like literally it would be there's no Wi-Fi hotspot at the thing, and we need better like access to hydration, after our IAD drills. And, also we thought it was a little bit too strenuous to work late and then get our mission taskings early in the morning. Like they would unfortunately legitimately give those feedback points, and they'd get to me and I'd be like, it was outstanding. Everything that they complained about, they would maybe think I was going to double down, but I couldn't do that because I didn't feel that way at all. I felt like, yes, work us until late. We will get up early in the morning for mission tasking. Of course, that's what we're going to do. So what's the correct answer? The correct answer is good to go. We're freaking good to go.
But you did that from a detached position of like, what does that look like strategically? What does this look like strategically? And I think that to me was, when I think about the culture of tasking a bruiser, even the appearance, we were talking about uniforms and being squared away, that to me is like, we took pride in, SEALs take pride in wearing whatever kind of crazy uniforms. You've talked about it a ton on the podcast here. Hey, we're going to wear off the shelf camouflage, and some guys have woodland tops and desert bottoms on, and
I've always thought in
the
book Blood Meridian, they talk about the Comanches, and the Comanches are out just like killing and stealing. And so Cormac McCarthy, rest in peace.
He just passed away.
Never got to talk to him, but he's like describing them as they're approaching, and it sounds like a SEAL platoon. Like people are wearing like top hats, and this guy's wearing like a dress, and this guy's wearing like a vest, and this guy's wearing a cowboy hat, and they just all look freaking crazy and different. And whenever I'd read that, I'd be like, that's basic SEAL platoon right there. Basically, that's what you get. Like I'm gonna wear jeans, I'm gonna wear a freaking whatever, just whatever random. I got a new Cabela's, cami shirt, and plus I got some, old Vietnam whatever, and they're just going down the list of what random stuff they're wearing. So yeah, it gets pretty wild.
And that's it. And we took pride in that. Hey, as long as we're able to go and perform on the X and accomplish our mission, like who cares? In fact, you almost take pride in how crazy you look. So when you approached us in tasking a bruiser about about this issue and about like, hey, should we try to look uniform? And so in how that came about was like when you first kind of brought the subject up, like, hey, let's all try to look uniform. Seth Stoner, I thought you were totally insane. But I was like, this is totally crazy. We were new guys at one platoon and, under our belt, as the platoon commanders know, but like there was massive pushback inside the platoon. Like, what do you mean I have to set up my op gear that looks like everybody else, and Charlie platoon has to look like Delta? What are you talking about? This is insane. So we came to you. I remember this conversation well in your office. This is like during the workup cycle. We came to you in your office, up there in the SEAL Team 3 headquarters with the little task unit office, and we're like, hey, we both like had talked about it, like, let's go set Jocko straight. Now, I mean, it wasn't that we were going to come set you straight, but like, hey, let's go.
Just push back against chain.
We're going to
obviously there's some things that I don't understand.
This doesn't make sense. Yeah. We're getting a lot of pushback, so we think we're going to take care of our team. And so we walk in there and talk to you about that. And you just asked us a question. You're like, how freaking cool would it be if we all look like stormtroopers? If everybody looks the same, everyone looks exactly the same. And when you said that to me, I was like, that would be freaking cool.
Yeah, especially it's like, hey, you know what the other task units look like, right? Well, yeah, you know how they all look all like a bunch of Comanches running around? Yeah. Imagine if we all are completely uniformed. We all look the same, like stormtroopers.
That was pretty much.
Wouldn't that be cool?
That was pretty much how you said it. And what was interesting to me there is like in about a 30-second question that you asked, and it wasn't you were like demanding that we do that. You simply asked us the question, which allowed us to reveal the truth to ourselves. So Stoner and I left there like, this is freaking awesome. We're all going to look the same. It's going to be different from everybody. And it gave us that unique culture. And when we put it out that way to the team, it wasn't like, hey, Jocko, saying this. It was like, hey, this is the way. How awesome is this going to be? And and people took and ran with that. And it was outstanding.
Yeah, there was also wanting to be able to PID and not wanting to be mistaken as a Mujahideen fighter is a huge part of that as well. And also, now that we're talking about uniforms, I remember, I think it was Stoner that was wearing like one of those like Mujahideen scarves. What are those things called?
In Iraq, they call them the kafia, but what do we call them? A
Shamag.
shamag.
Yeah. So we get out to our desert training place, and here comes Stoner rolling up, and he's got one of those things on. And I'm like, oh, are you Muj? And he's like, no. And I go, fuck you wearing that scarf for? And he just like took it off and was like, check.
He took it off and never wore it again. And I think we all got the word on that too, because no one in Tasking and Bruiser wore those things. But what really stood out to me on that is like it made it cool. Like it made it cool to be like, hey, we want to look all the same because that's going to set us apart from everybody else. We're going to look professional, and it was instantaneous for us to take that from like, hey, we think it's cool to all look different and to do different stuff and to look like just a bunch of renegades out there that don't look military, to like, hey, we actually look military.
Yeah. Hey, we're part of a gang. This is what we are. So watch out.
This is how we roll in Tasking and Bruiser. Now, we did take that to an excessive level when we spray painted Punisher skulls all on our on every single vehicle. And a general came out to see us. Was it?
I think it was General Brown.
Yeah, I think it was him. And you were like, take this off.
No, it must have been earlier than General Brown, because General Brown came out pretty late. I don't know who it was, but to me it was PID. Like, it was PID, this is like not a good thing where you're rolling around and you're advertising like, hey, this is us. Here's our mark. It did look cool though.
It did. It looked really cool. And there had been a lot of time and effort on, every single like gun truck had the Punisher skulls on them. So, but then we just put them on our uniforms.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
It worked out.
The stencil still came in handy.
We took it off. We took it off helmets, and we took it off the Humvees.
Yeah, it's freaking legit. And that's one of those things where, as I'm, hey, looks fine. I'm not worried about it. You know what I mean? It's like, it's one of those things. Where do you hold the line and where do you let it slide? And it's like, hey man, we got a badass bunch of troopers here, and this is actually a uniform now, so we're gonna roll with it. And it's also a lot harder to identify. Like a vehicle, it's pretty obvious what that is.
I think though the questions we get from leaders, and we were just talking with a bunch of leaders up at the council about this, about how you set culture for the team, and we had some leaders of some fairly big construction companies up there that were talking about like, hey, how do I get my people to have their job site squared away, or make sure they all have safety gear, or to make sure that the trucks are cleaned out at the end of the day. And I was telling them about that. We were using this as an example of like, you got to make it cool. You got to make it cool. Hey, think about what everybody else looked like. The question you just asked, what does everybody else look like? They've got stuff, it's not squared away. They don't have, they don't all look uniform. There's trash laying out on the job site. Wouldn't it be cool if, how badass would it be if you showed up on our job site and it instantly looks different than everybody else? It instantly looks squared away. It instantly looks free. Like you're like, hey, these guys are professional. These guys are freaking awesome. And I think when you threw that out there, it creates that culture where you don't have to go around and tell people to square their uniforms away, because we're all doing it because, hey, you got to look like everybody else. Why? Because it's important. We got to look professional so that we can go out on the battlefield and actually have an impact, close with and destroy the enemy. And we're going to do that all looking like a bunch of stormtroopers. They all look the exact same, but I can go out there and have a huge impact. So I think that's, as leaders trying to set culture for the team, you got to make that, we're unique, we're special, we got a different identity, we're going to outperform everybody else, and that matters. And if you make that something cool that people are striving to do, then you've got a team of people that are holding themselves accountable, and you got that like peer pressure to like get squared away and get on board with the standard so that everybody goes out and kicks ass and outperforms the other teams out there.
Yeah, the gang polices itself. Once you have those standards set, the gang polices itself. They don't let no slack occur. Then when it comes to that, the behavior of other people when you're trying to establish culture. Establishing culture, that means you reward behavior that is within the culture, and you punish or at least mitigate behavior that's not within the culture. So, you use carrots and sticks, basically. And, we prefer to use carrots, right? We prefer when somebody does something that's super squared away, that's what we prefer to focus on. We don't want to go like, oh, you need to wear a different uniform. Like you said, I didn't really do that, but the E5 Mafia would tighten some fools up. That's for sure. But just carrots and sticks. And so if you're in an organization and someone does something, they, you have you're the client, the customer's always right. Great. Okay, cool. Customer's always right. Well, when one of those cashiers goes out of his way to, take care of a customer that was having an issue and they needed help carrying stuff to the car, so they locked up the register and went and carried the stuff to the car and took care of the customer and whatever. Then you reward that person. And you tell that story so people understand that they will be rewarded for these behaviors that support our culture that we have. And then when someone does something stupid, look, and you got to be careful about making an example out of people, and you don't necessarily have to name them, but if somebody does something that doesn't support the culture, then you call that out as well. And again, am I looking to call out individuals and make them look like idiots? No. But to say, hey, this really negatively impacted our company because we had a bad Yelp review. Why did we get a bad Yelp review? Because we treated we treated a customer bad. And here's what happened. And now we got to go and we're going to give that person, a gift certificate or whatever. But why are we doing that? Let's not let that happen. That's not what we do here. That's not who we are. That's not what we do. That's not who we are. That's not how we do it. You violated one of those, right? So think about rewarding the positive support to the culture and punishing or mitigating or calling out things that are not in support of the culture.
I don't know if, I'm trying to think about I don't remember any, I guess there were some punishments, meted out for folks that got in trouble before we deployed, and there were some uniform inspections and things like that in Tasking and Bruiser, but that was minimal stuff, and none of that came from you. It came from the NCOs that were trying to hold the line, and it was, but I think for me, there was a lot of it was an opportunity to educate people about why this is important and how it's going to impact us. So not only do we have to look squared away, we actually have to treat the soldiers and Marines that we engage with professionalism and respect. And, and if we don't do that, then we're not going to actually go out and be able to operate in the battle space. They're going to assume we're unprofessional. They don't want us here. And particularly when we had so many examples of special operations units that had treated them unprofessionally and caused some bad blood between, conventional Army and Marine units and special operations units. So we had to overcome, we're actually digging ourselves out of a hole. And even walking up to a senior officer or NCO and just treating them professionally and talking to them and addressing them by their rank and it just that right away immediately set us apart. And I think you did a great job of educating us about why that's important and how that was going to impact our ability to go out onto the battlefield and conduct operations and have an impact.
Yeah, it might sound crazy. So if you're a civilian and you're listening to this, the way it works is you have geographic areas, and the geographic areas are controlled by conventional forces. So, for instance, the city of Ramadi overall was controlled by an Army colonel. And then it was broken up into smaller sectors that were controlled by either Marine Corps battalion commanders or Army battalion commanders. And then those sectors were broken up into smaller pieces that were controlled by Army or Marine Corps company commanders. They own that real estate. They literally own that real estate. If you want to go into their real estate, you have to ask them permission to go in. You want to go to a party at their house, you've got to ask them. You can't just barge in there. You can't just go, oh, I'm a SEAL, I'm going to go party in this house. You can't do that. It's their house. It's their land. So you have to actually be invited, or you have to ask permission. So if you act like an idiot or a jackass or an arrogant person, why would they let you in there? You're just going to cause problems. It's obvious. But if you show up and you're respectful and you treat them with respect and you listen to what they have to say and you talk about and explain to them what you're going to do at the party, how you can help the party. Like, hey, I have the capability to set up a DJ booth and play music for the party. We can help out here. They're like, oh, okay, that sounds good. You seem like you just don't go in there and start kicking in doors and blasting music. Doesn't work that way. So yes, we had to build good relationships. And yes, your mom taught you in 4th grade that you don't get a second chance to make a first impression. So what's the first impression of a battalion commander that's been in the Army for 19 years? What's the first impression he gets from you? It's your uniform and it's your haircut and it's your shave. Period. End of story. Period. End of story. You can't help that. You cannot help that. Even though they might know that stuff really doesn't matter. And we've all been taught this stuff. We've all been taught that no combat ready unit has ever passed inspection and no inspection ready unit has ever passed combat. We all know Murphy's Laws. We know those things. But there still is an inherent judgment that's going to take place when you show up. And if you show up looking like a jackass, you're going to get treated like a jackass. So be professional. And yes, that's what I explained to the guys. Like, hey, we've got to show these guys respect. And I also distinctly remember saying, listen, this company commander that you're about to go talk to has probably been in Iraq for 16 months right now. He's a company commander. This is his 2nd tour in Iraq, and they're doing 1-year tours in the Army. So that's who you're talking to. And by the way, Lieutenant JG, how much time have you spent in Iraq? 4 days. How many times have you shot your weapon? 0. So these guys have been in serious combat for extended period of time, and treat them that way. Give them some respect.
I remember talking to Main Gun Mike Bima, who was Bulldog Company commander. We worked super closely with from Bravo. He was the commander for Bravo Company for 137 of the Ready First Brigade, 1st Armored Division. And I was saying, like, I had 3 combat deployments to Iraq. I think I spent a total of about 17 months in Iraq total. And he'd spent 37 months in Iraq.
Well, he had done, I want to say, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but his first deployment to Iraq, I want to say, was 14 months. And it was like, 2000, it was fighting 14 months straight. Then he went home for a year, took over a company, and now he's back. And he'd been there already, I think up in Tal Afar or something, for already 6 months. So he'd already been in Iraq for 20 freaking months in a leadership position the whole time. So... And then you talk about the battalion commanders, you talk about those company commanders. I remember going over to Corregidor for the first time, and I'm meeting the company commander of Gunfighter, and he's already been there for 5 months, and he's lost a dozen guys. These guys have been in serious sustained combat. I mean, I'm here to learn. I'm here to support. We're here to help you. How can we help you? And it's bizarre to think that might slip by you, but when you're in the SEAL teams, you're kind of isolated. You're in a little bit of a vacuum in the SEAL teams. Even my first deployment was a little bit of a vacuum. We're living on our own little camp. We don't have to leave our camp for anything. We're basically going out and conducting operations wherever we wanted to. All we would do is, as I said earlier, check in with the battle space commander. We would leave, go back. It's just us debriefing. Then we go back. We come back to America. We do a workup by ourselves. We do very little interoperability with other military units, and you just get a little bit isolated. So if you on your 2nd deployment, and you roll to Ramadi, and you're I'm kind of a badass. I've done 38 direct action missions. It's like, bro, think about what these other guys have been through. Think about their perspective.
There was a SEAL I worked with who was rolling out with a Marine unit, in kind of the latter part of the Fallujah battle, and so he gets in the Humvee, and there's a Marine man in the 50 cal. And he was like, It's like, he was like, have you had space and time this thing? Like, he asked a question. The other SEALs in the vehicle were like, yo, man, do you, like, we got like a 30-minute class on how to headspace and time a 50 cal. I'm like, you're asking a Marine machine gunner if he knows how to headspace and time a vehicle. Like
Day 12 of the Battle of Fallujah.
Yeah, that guy has done that thing 10,000 times. Like, he'll know more about that weapon than you ever can even imagine. He
can headspace and time it with his pinky.
Exactly. Yeah, it was not a good look for the SEAL teams.
That's a bummer.
But the folks around him, I think, administered some corrections. But back to the culture stuff though, I want to make clear, man, like, we wrote in Extreme Ownership Chapter 2, like, it's not what you preach, it's what you tolerate. So certainly if people aren't holding the standard or performing the way they should, then yeah, you gotta hold them accountable. You gotta make an example out of them. But it wasn't like this wasn't like you beating us down and saying like we need to be squared away. You actually took extreme ownership of explaining, hey, I got to explain to you why this is important. And I think for the leaders that are listening to this, when you want to build a culture of a high performance winning team, you don't go beat people down if their job site isn't squared away, or they're not as professional as they should be on a call with a client. You actually need to take that as an opportunity to, holding them accountable doesn't mean you just smash them over the head. It means that you take ownership of not explaining why this is important, so they understand how it's going to help them. If they fall short of those standards, it's going to hurt the mission, and it's ultimately going to hurt them. And back to the construction site example where, when we're talking to leaders, they're like, well, obviously, if our job site doesn't look good, that's going to affect our ability to win other bids, for the next job. But the frontline troopers don't see that. The guys that are out there working, they don't see that. So you as a leader have to take ownership of educating them, of training them, of helping them see why this is important, how it not only helps the overall mission, but connecting that thread of why back down to them, and how it's going to create more opportunities for them to win the next bid if you have a squared away looking job site. So I think that's just an important point to make, is this isn't beating people down. And I was never like, oh, if we don't do this, Jocko's going to yell at us. You never yelled at us.
Yeah.
It was, you explained why it was important, and then you didn't have to explain it to anybody else, because I was explaining why it was important to my team, and they're explaining it to each other. Some new guy shows up that plugs in as an augmentee. We're letting him know, like, hey, man, your uniform needs to look like everybody else's. Here's how you set your gear up.
Yeah. So explaining the why, always critical. And then it's also an alignment check, because if I say to Leif Babin and Seth Stone, hey, we want to look squared away. The reason why we want to look squared away is because the Army and the Marine Corps owns the battle space, and we want to do a lot of operations in their battle space. Therefore, we need their respect and trust, and the first impression that we give them is our uniforms. Do you guys want to conduct a bunch of combat operations? The answer is 100% yes. So as long as we're aligned, you're like, oh, this is going to get us to conduct operations? Cool, we're in. That's all it is. If I don't have a why, then all of a sudden you're like, well, why are we doing this? Well, because it looks better. That's not a reason. Or because I said so. That's not a reason. Or because, even if I refer back to doctrine, which in this case is because that's the military uniform. Even if I do that, that's not an answer. That's not a why. Because the book says so is not an answer. Because I outrank you is not an answer. Because this is the way I've always done it is not an answer. None of those are answers. The why actually has to be a valid reason. And then it makes sense. And then I don't have to worry about it anymore. I don't have to worry about it anymore, because you got it. You understand. We're aligned. We want to go kill bad guys. This is going to help us go kill bad guys. Period. End of story. That whole thing I've talked about, the trump card. You have that trump card of alignment. It's like the trump card of alignment. Do you not want to do missions? Because if you look like a jackass, you're not going to do missions. No, I definitely want to do missions. Cool. Don't look like a jackass. Make sense? Yes. There you go. Another thing for culture is history. Like making sure people understand who you are, where you came from, right? The who you are part also entails where you came from. Look, it was amazing to me that the other military units, the 137, you walk into the 137, this is their temporary tactical operations center in Ramadi, Iraq. It's a freaking crappy old dusty blown out building that they squared away, and you walk in there and they've got articles hanging on the wall from World War II that they went on deployment with to show what they did as a battalion in World War II. Same thing with the 1st, the 506, the 38 Marines. They are saying this is who the battle streamers are there in combat with them. That is a source of pride. It's a source of history. And yes, it is a source of culture. It allows you to see where you came from. If you know where you came from, this is like when people look up their 23andMe. You ever seen that thing where the dude like looks at his readout and he's got 0.002%, Nordic Viking, and then they just show him in his front yard he's got a broadsword and a Viking helmet, like, yeah. It's actually, the point is, you can take that thing where you came from and you can transfer it into how you're going to behave right now. So when you know about these things, like, when I got to SEAL Team 1, you walk into SEAL Team 1, the quarterdeck back in the day, Medal of Honor recipients. There's Mikey Thornton. Yep, that's the goal. That's the model. That's what I'm going to be. That's what I'm going to try and be. I'm not going to be that because I'm definitely not going to be that. But I'm going to try. I know what the example is. The example is you risk your life for your freaking teammate. Even when people are telling you he's dead, you still do everything you can. That's the example. So that's the culture. That's the SEAL. That's part of the SEAL culture, is you don't let your teammate down. Mike Thornton, that's the story. Mike Thornton, his Vietnamese SEALs come back to him and say, the lieutenant is dead. He's dead. We need to leave. And Mike Thornton says, negative. I'm going to go get him, and saves his life. So what better example of you don't leave your teammate behind? There you go. That's it. That's the culture. So when you have a company, when you have a business, where'd you come from? Who started the company? Why did they start it? What did they overcome? Did they make it through the Depression? Did they make it through? What's interesting is nowadays we talk to companies that made it through 2007, 2008, the economic downturn. They went through a war for them and they made it. And that's part of their history. I worked with a company in Austria that was over 500 years old. They work with metal now, but back in the day they made armor. They made suits of armor, and now they make chains and cables. But they've been in business for over 500 years. There's some pride there, right? Like, you're doing something. So if you want to establish a strong culture, then you need to figure out what your history is. And you don't need to be like this ancient company. That's a cool example of someone that's been around for 500 years, but it's also a cool example of someone that's formed in 2003 and they made it through the economic downturn and they kept people on board and they had to scrap and they had to take pay cuts and they had to furlough people, but they made it. That's part of the history. It's part of the story. Tell people so they know where they came from. If you know where you come from, it's an indication of how you should be acting.
You always talk about propagate the story, and I think it's a super powerful concept. And I always, when I was teaching the junior officer training course, when we got back from Ramadi, and I went to run that course for 2 years, every single SEAL officer that graduated from our training pipeline. The mandatory reading for all those officers was Basilivac's UDT SEAL operations in Vietnam, and then the Naked Warriors, about the underwater demolition teams in World War II. And I think that to me was like just giving, and now obviously you could add By Water Beneath the Walls, which is a fantastic book that captures so much of our history. I always felt like, one, if people understand that, they realize it's not just about them. It's about this legacy and heritage that we've inherited. So if you go out and get drunk on the weekends and and arrested, and give the SEAL teams a bad name. It's not just about you or your platoon or the current SEAL team you're a part of, but the entire legacy that you're a part of. And I think it also, just gives you, like, there's been so many incredible SEALs that contributed to this legacy, and particularly by Water Beneath the Wall. Some of those things that I've talked to Vietnam SEAL friends of mine that were blown away by some of the history they didn't even know about that they read in that book. And when you realize, like, these guys just went into China and figured out, like, hey, what can we do to actually go and attack the Japanese and offer a solution here to go and close with and destroy the enemy, and create this indigenous army running around. I mean, just some of those operations. I always found that to be a fascinating way of giving people not only pride in their heritage and where they came from, but then how can I actually contribute to this? And then how can I make sure that I don't tarnish that legacy? The things that I do, could contribute negatively and impact our heritage.
100%. I mean, I've talked to young SEALs, and I'll see young SEALs at, let's say, a Memorial Day. See those guys, young SEALs, up at Mikey's grave, up at Mark's grave, up at Seth's grave, and I'll talk to him and say, hey, you represent these guys now. Like, I'm retired. No one cares about me. You guys represent these guys that sacrificed their lives for their teammates. You represent them now. So what you do reflects on them. They're not here to do anything else. They made their sacrifice, and now it's on you. So represent them well. That's absolutely true. Absolutely true. And yes, propagating the story is making sure you remember that history, and then when things occur, when you're inside of an organization, it's sort of like what I was saying earlier about rewarding, but not just reward, but how do you capture that information and let people know what you're doing inside the organization? Because culture's for internal, right? And look, culture will bleed over, and people on the outside of the organization will see, and they'll appreciate, hopefully, if you develop a good culture, they will understand the culture inside of your organization. But the focus for culture is inside the organization. So propagating the story and making sure that people inside the organization understand what we're writing that history right now. If you're part of this team, you're part of the history of this organization. If you're at Echelon Front right now, you're part of the creation of the history of Echelon Front right now. So what you do matters, and what you do is going to leave a mark. And when you do something, when you get this client and you turn them around and they start outperforming anything that they've done in the past, that's part of the history of the company. You did that. That's you. You're part of it. So propagating that story is absolutely important.
I was just thinking about this in the context of, tasking a bruiser in our operations in Ramadi, and, for so long particularly in the Iraq War, right? It was SEALs and other special operations units going out at nighttime, doing these capture kill missions at nighttime, coming back before the sun was up. And so that became like, that's the special operations mission. And so we got some criticisms for going out and being out in the daytime, because that's when the enemy was actually moving around. That's when we were able to engage them. That's when we can engage the local populace, as well. And that's we found that we could have the most impact on the battlefield. We'd go in at nighttime, set up the sniper overwatches, but remain over day when the enemy was actually moving around and thought they had freedom of movement. And so that's when we could do the most damage to them and have the most impact. And it was interesting to me as we received some of those criticisms, because we were doing something that was different from what a lot of the other special operations units were doing. It was very similar to underwater demolition teams in World War II, where they were doing these nighttime reconnaissance, beach reconnaissance. And then Draper Kaufman, I think, was one of the father of the underwater demolition teams. He came from the schoolhouse, and I think it was it Saipan? Maybe it was his first. I think it might have been his first operations in the Pacific, as he left the schoolhouse to go out there. It was either Guam or Saipan. I don't remember. I believe it was Saipan. But these huge operations, to take these Japanese-held islands back. And they're doing it in the daytime. And he was like, this is crazy. Like, how can we do this in the daytime? You're going to get killed. And then the SEALs the frogmen, the underwater demolition team that had been conducting this realized like, hey, we can go out and we can do this in the daytime. They almost no casualties as a result of swimming off the beach. It was minimal, but they were able to do a much better job of the reconnaissance and come back. And then, interestingly enough, in Vietnam, it was the opposite. So you didn't go out at nighttime. Charlie owned the night. And so you didn't go out at nighttime because the Viet Cong were going to ambush you and kill you. And so U.S. forces would just kind of hunker down, overnight in their defensive perimeters. Well, SEALs figured out, pretty early in the war, like, hey, we can go out at nighttime and actually have some impact. And so that seemed crazy to a lot of people. But it was part of. I felt like we were part of that legacy in Tasking and Bruiser of like, hey, where can we have the most impact on the battlefield? Where can we contribute most to the mission? We're certainly are we taking some more risks to be out in the daytime? Sure, but there's ways of mitigating that risk, which is exactly what we did, just as the frogmen did, and just as the SEALs in Vietnam did.
Yeah, and I look at that as my fault. And this is when we talk about propagating the story. I didn't do a good enough job of explaining broadly what we were doing, but more important, why we were doing it. Because, when we got back and I actually would sit down with someone and be like, dude, why are you going out in the daytime? And I'd say, oh, here's the reasons. And you go, oh, well, we had to work with Iraqi troops. Iraqi troops didn't have night vision. Iraqi troops had one flashlight per 4 guys, and we'd give them more, but even that wasn't really sufficient.
They didn't know how to use that one flashlight.
Yeah. The enemy was only out. The enemy didn't come out during the night at all, which means you could go out, walk around all you want, but you're not going to have any impact because there's nothing there. And once I kind of, and the conventional forces that we were working with, they had to push out and they had to control areas, and you have to control areas not just during the night, you have to control them during the day too. That's why we did it. And guys would go, oh, okay, yeah, that makes sense. I didn't do a good job while we were on deployment or even when we got back of explaining what was going on, what we were doing, and most important, why we were doing it. I should have done a better job of that. And then some of the folks would have gone, oh, okay, I get it. And there was a couple times, like I had one friend that was in Baghdad and he emailed me like, dude, what are you guys doing? And I emailed him back like, hey bro, let me explain it to you. That should have been an indicator to me, but I didn't catch on that, oh, some people might be saying, what the hell are you doing? And again, too bad I wouldn't have read Ben Milligan's book, because I probably, if he had written it faster, or I guess he couldn't have written it at the time. But if that kind of book with that kind of information would have been around, I would have known, okay, I got to propagate this story a little bit better. I got to do a better job of explaining what's going on, because otherwise people look at it from a distance and they go, oh, that doesn't make any sense. Like you said, just like they said to the frogmen, and just like they said to the SEALs in Vietnam, like, what are you doing going out at night? Charlie owns the night. No, we own the night. And we owned the day in Ramadi as well. Like, we owned it. So yeah, those are good points. Language. The language that you use creates a culture. I'm going to go to a little bit more about face right now. Here we go. The men of the 439th had no unit identity and no pride in themselves. As a first step toward rectifying this, I decided to call my hard luck battalion the Hardcore, and the troops Recondos. The latter being the nickname of the 1st Brigade, 9th Division, of which the 439th was a part. Just as I had in the 3-3 at Fort Lewis, I insisted on a airborne all the way greeting between 439 soldiers and their officers. So when he was at the 3-3 in Fort Lewis, he would the enlisted guys would say airborne, and the officers would say all the way. But in the 439, when a soldier saluted an officer, he said, "Hardcore Recondo, sir." And when the officer responded, it was with a heartfelt, "No fucking slack." At first, my cynical hippie troops sniggered over what they considered G.I. Joe bullshit, but it didn't matter. I knew the time would come when it would mean one hell of a lot to each and every one of them. So, the language that you use starts to form your culture. The BTF is a great example. All Navy all the time. Remember saying that?
I do.
I've had, and I always have this stuff in my platoons. Like, we'd have platoons and we'd have these things that we'd start to say, and it would become part of the language, right and tight. Like, I was in a platoon at Team 2. We said right and tight 47 times a paragraph. You know, get your shit right and tight, boy. Hey, is that the right and tight over there? Like, we just said it all the time. And guess what? When you're saying right and tight all the time, that is what you start to behave like. When you say, like I already explained about BTF, that's what we're doing. Are we complaining? No, we're BTFing. Are we taking the easy road? No, we're BTFing. Are we going to be soft? No, we're going to BTF. That's what we're doing. So the idea that the language that you use is going to also formulate your culture is absolutely true. I remember at first the 506th, like at the end of the meeting, the battalion commander would say, you'd say, Curry, and they'd all go, stands alone. Like, that was everything. And you're like, dude, this is awesome. But just like he says, he's admitting, Hackworth is admitting, like, in the beginning, I knew these guys were like, this is freaking bullshit. But after a little while, you're like, no fucking slack. That becomes part of the way you function and operate. That becomes part of the way you function and operate. So the language that you choose to use and the language that you choose to propagate inside your organization, it becomes the way you operate. At Echelon Front, relationships are paramount. Everybody says that. Relationships are paramount. What does that mean? That means relationships are paramount. That means if you're interacting with somebody and there's something straining the relationship, you're going to prioritize the relationship. That's what we're doing. That's how we operate. That's what we're doing. It becomes part of the culture. So think about the language that you use inside your organization.
I think it has massive impact. It's massive impact. And, you know, as I read that statement for the first time in that copy of About Face that you gave me in, you know, January 2007, it really stood out to me because it's very much my experience in tasking a bruiser. You know, I'm sure there were people that were like, oh, they kind of rolled.
There was definitely haters and friends. Like friends of mine at Team 3 that were in other tasks used to be like, bro, what's up with your freaking guys, dude? I was like, hey, bro, you know, we're just BTFing. I can say, what can I tell you? And they were like making fun of us, jabbing at us. And at the same time, kind of being like, damn, we're kind of cool.
For sure. And I think that what's interesting, though, is I think a lot of the guys who might be, there was some complaining going on. Hey, why are we working so much harder than everybody else? I didn't, we're going in earlier, we're staying later. Even when the instructors had said, like, hey, you guys are good to go. I mean, I remember multiple times we were like, hey, You would just ask the question like, hey, do you think we're ready for the worst case scenario on the battlefield? And we look at each other and be like, let's do another run. You know, and we would do that where other task units were not doing that. And so that hadn't been people's experience previously. And so there was some complaining about that initially going on. Hey, we don't get enough sleep. We don't get to go out of town, or, we don't get to do all these other things that they wanted to do, and the other task units are doing them. But the moment that we started outperforming everybody, as that outperformance became very apparent, and those other guys were kind of looking in like, hey, what are these guys doing over here? And the training, detachment instructors were like, dang, man, you guys are the best task unit I've seen come through here. When we started to hear that kind of stuff, those complaints went away pretty quickly because people took pride in being a part of a unique unit that was able to outperform, everybody else. And like, hey, we're Bruiser. We do things different. We do things better. And that translated directly on the battlefield. I mean, the turnover that we got of like, hey, don't go into these areas of Ramadi because you're all going to get killed. And we're looking at how can we get in there? How can we actually get in these areas? Yeah, we don't all want to get killed. We're going to have to take we took tremendous steps that we could and to mitigate the risk to our forces. But if we knew that if we went into some of these areas that nobody else could get into, that we could actually have some massive impact on the battlefield. And so we took pride in being able to go places that other people couldn't go.
Yeah. Two things. Number one, this is our perspective, right? And here's why I want to point this out. You can hear what we're saying. You can hear Leif saying like, dude, we were tasking a bruiser. We were better. We were working harder. That's our perspective. Look, were the other task units working hard? Hell yeah, they were. They were freaking getting after it. And let's say they were working harder than us, which they weren't. But let's say they were. Let's say they were. Let's say they were. There was some other freaking outstanding freaking dudes in those other task units, 100%.
No doubt.
Just freaking outstanding guys. Even if they were working harder than us, guess what we thought? We were working harder. Like inside our world, we had a strong level of confidence that we were outworking and outperforming everybody else. So that's a positive thing. What are we going to watch out for? And what did we watch out for? Freaking arrogance all the time. Like letting that task unit bruiser thing become a, hey, we're better than you is what you have to watch out for. Because if we're better than you and I think I'm better than you, that means I don't have to work as hard as you. That means I don't have to train as hard as you. That means we don't need to plan as much as you. That means we can just make things happen because we're a bruiser. No, it's not like that. It's actually the opposite of that. We're tasking a bruiser, which means we have to work harder, which means we have to prepare more, which means we have to plan more, which means we have to do extra runs. It's because we're tasking a bruiser that we have to do more. It's not the opposite. So be careful. And we were talking about this, and I've actually used this. I've been talking about this a bunch now. This idea of being in stressful situations and how you prepare for performance and how you got to prepare. You plan, you rehearse, you visualize, you don't worry about things that you can't control. And ultimately, just before the moment of execution, you have to get a little bit cocky. You have to get a little bit cocky. And that's the way that I operate. It's the way I've always operated. As humble as I can possibly be until I put my night vision goggles on or until I lock and load my weapon. Then watch out, because I'm a bad motherfucker and I'm coming to get you and you're not going to be able to do anything to me. That's what's happening. Or like jiu-jitsu, like I'm training my ass off. When you look at me like, hey, let's roll, and we clap hands, all of a sudden I'm going to get you. Like that's what's happening. I'm not nervous. I'm not scared. Like, oh, what's going to happen? So having that humility that then you can lean into, all right, it's go time. And now we're confident. And that's what you're doing. We used to do that with fighters. Like you get that fighter, you're getting them ready for a fight. They're getting their ass kicked in the beginning of training camp. You're making sure they're getting their ass kicked. You're making sure you're bringing in fresh people. They're getting their ass kicked. They can't get up. They can't get off the ground. Their striking sucks. They're behind. And then as you get closer and closer, they're doing better and better. By the time you're a week out, they're kicking your ass, whether they can or not, honestly. And I'm not trying, look, I'm out of the business now. I'm not training fighters anymore. But you don't want to kick a guy's ass 3 days before he gets into the cage against a world-class dude, because his confidence not going to be there. So you're gonna let them build that confidence back up, just like a dog. A working dog. When you have a working dog, an attack dog never loses a fight in training. They never lose a fight. They don't even understand what that means. When that freaking Belgian Malinois comes at you, when it's coming to get you, it has never lost a fight before, ever. It's coming. It knows 100% in its mind it can win. When you come to my house and I have Odin, my German Shepherd that weighs 120 pounds, he's never lost a fight before. He's never had a bite that didn't take someone down and stop them. He doesn't understand. You have a gun, a loud gun. He's been through that where that's not going to stop him. He's heard that loud bang before. It's not going to stop him. So what you have to do is you have to be prepared to die, because these animals, they've never lost. So as you're going through that mental, cultural formation, you want to have them humble. You want to have them work. But then you also want to teach them, hey, look, we win. That's what we do. Clutch time, we win. What happens when a player or an individual gets the reputation of like they're a go-to guy in the clutch scenario? Michael Jordan. Who are you going to give the ball to? You give it to Jordan. When he's feeling good, what are his chances? They go up astronomically. When he's feeling bad, or if he missed a couple shots and now his game is off, Jordan's the wrong person to say this about, because what Jordan does is, I blew that one, but watch this. He'll refocus. He learned how to do that. To go, I blew a shot? Cool, watch this. We used to see this, you see somebody shooting head plates, right? You got standard drill, you got to shoot 6 head plates. You're going against Leif. So beep, the timer goes. I pull out my weapon, crack 1, crack 2, I miss a shot. I've been shooting head plates all day, and I've been shooting head plates for 15 years. I miss a shot. Oh, damn, I missed it. Oh, no, Leif's going to beat me. Miss another one, miss another one, miss another one. When you miss a shot, you got to just be like, whatever. I meant to do that. Crack. So getting your culture to have that nice level of humility all the time, but then also be able to flip the switch and be able to execute as a team, extremely important. Extremely important. You actually want to have, you can actually work with a team where, like starting up the vehicles. There's something about that I always found when we'd say starting vehicles in 3, 2, 1, start them up, and all the Humvees would start at the same time. You knew at that moment in time you were an in-sync organization that was about to go just do whatever we got to do to win. Because everything you've been running around, you got planning, you're doing this, you're looking for your radio, all this stuff is going on, and then you get in the vehicles, everyone's loaded up, mount up, mount up, mount up. In 3, 2, 1, start them up. And it's like a mental thing that's going on, and everybody feels it. So think about what you can do with your team where you can activate their confidence, where you can tell them it's go time. You get done with a brief, and what's the last thing you say to them that's going to get them in that mode where they're going to overcome? That's what we do.
I think those things are directly related, and I'm getting fired up when you're talking about starting the Humvees. I mean, it's just that there's nothing like when you got a uniform group and everybody's in sync. And we talk about the dichotomy, right, of balancing confident but not cocky. You got to be confident, but you can't be cocky. And so when you're talking about like never getting arrogant and thinking like, oh, we're the best. I think that what gives you the confidence to go and execute when it's go time on a combat operation, and I've never fought in the UFC or been a professional MMA fighter, but I got to imagine it's a similar deal, is that you have put in the work. Right. You've challenged yourself, and I think what made us good in Tasking and Bruiser was that we would critique ourselves harder than anybody else. And when I was used to the training instructors really picking us apart, going through the workup cycle of like, yeah, you need to fix this, you need to fix this, you screw that up. They didn't have a lot to say when we were done debriefing ourselves because, for the most part, because we were just eviscerate ourselves about all the things that we actually needed to work on. And so that enabled us to push the standard. We're always looking to get better in everything that we did. And because, that's why we talk about humility as the most important quality of a leader, constantly scrutinizing ourselves about like, hey, are we actually ready for this worst case scenario? Can we actually get better? Can we improve? And because we pushed ourselves that hard and because we were humble and because we put in the extra time and the extra work and the extra preparation, it gave us the confidence to go and execute in a way that I think those are directly related. So, one of the things that really stands out to me is I mentioned earlier, like the training instructor said, you guys are the best task unit I've seen come through here. And so, when you get assigned a training detachment, this is like a 3-year tour, typically 2 or 3 year tour for most of these guys. So they've seen a bunch of different task units come through. And I remember very distinctly say, don't ever say that again. Don't ever say that again, my guys.
Yeah.
And you didn't take that as like, oh, thank you for saying that. No. I appreciate it. You actually were upset because you knew that that's the kind of thing that would make us cocky, and now we think we're awesome, so we don't have to train hard. We don't actually have to push ourselves hard, which is then going to make sure that that's going to set us up for failure when it's time to actually roll out operations for real. And so I think those things, the harder that you're pushing yourself in training, the harder that you're preparing, the more discipline that you have, in those training procedures, it gives you the confidence to go and execute well.
Yeah. You can definitely set those things up properly where you can learn to flip that switch. You can learn to become a little bit cocky in just a moment before execution. And it's something that and when I remember telling you about it, because I told you about it at Total Archery Challenge, right? Because here we are at Total Archery Challenge. I'm shooting my brand new bow, which, you got to get used to a new bow, right? You got to get used to it. I got different cams on it. It's a little bit, feels a little bit different. And so you're getting used to the new bow. And this was only like my 3rd time shooting it. And
which is insane.
Yeah.
Like if you don't know anything about Total Archery Challenge, it's freaking awesome. It's an incredible experience, but it is. I mean, you're making the first shot out of the pipe for us on day one on the course that we shot was 117 yards.
Yeah.
So I mean, that is a bomb. That's like a 1,000-yard rifle shot.
Yeah.
And you're going out of the pipe, and you've only shot this bow just a couple of times.
Now look,
at what, 20 yards?
Yeah, and now look, Dudley. This bow is built by one of the premier guys in the world. So we're getting a high quality item, but still, it takes reps. And I've only been doing archery for 5 years, so I'm not like some stud at this stuff. But I had just done this podcast with Echo on the Underground talking about, and someone had asked, like, what do you do to get ready for stress? And I talked through this whole thing. You got to prepare. And then I said, and you know what I do at the moment, just before execution, I get a little bit cocky. And what made me think about that was like shooting head plates, back in the day. You're going up, like I would never be the best shot, but I might be like fourth in the platoon, depending on the run. Maybe I'd win one thing or two things, but I wasn't going to be like, there's always going to be a guy that's just freaking awesome shot, right? But when I was time to walk up, calling it competition. I just almost called it competition, but it is. You're like competing. Like, okay, you and me, Leif, and at that moment, I'd be like, cool, I'm gonna kick your ass. Like, Leif sucks. Like, I'm gonna, and it would just be that enough to be like, it's enough to let go of the pressure and just be like, I got this. So we're at Total Archery Challenge, and I had this in my head the whole time. So every time, and these are freaking stupid shots, 100 yards, freaking 73-yard freaking white rabbit. Like, and you and me both hit that bad boy. But like, I'm walking up to the line, like, watch this, like, step aside. And it really did help. That's the best I've ever shot at TAC, and it's the least prepared I've been. It was the least prepared I've been at TAC, and the best I've ever shot. And it's because I consciously now was telling myself, watch this. Oh, you got this. I'm going to smoke this thing. Leif's going to look like an idiot when I get done with this. Like, what do you got, Dudley? Like, just all this. And you know what? You can see Dudley do that too. You can see Dudley has a little switch that flips where someone will talk shit to him, and all of a sudden he looks like a little bit different. And you're like, oh, he's going to murder this target. I had a guy that I was on a ship with, and I was a radio man. This guy worked in the radio room. And we're talking because I'm building relationships. I'm talking. He's like, yeah, I played AA ball or AAA ball. Which one's higher? He was like just underneath the major leagues in baseball. I forget which one it is, AAA, AA, but he was just underneath the major leagues in baseball. And in the Navy, I don't know if it's like this in the Marine Corps, but in the Navy, just about every dude could have been, a contender, could have been a professional, could have been, had scholarships, but blah, 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 blah. So I'm figuring he's one of these guys. And he's like, yeah, he's like, I'm going to try again when I get back. I'm going to try and make another run at it. He's like, can you catch for me? And I was like, dude, I suck at baseball, but I got a buddy. And as a matter of fact, it's the same buddy I was talking about earlier, the visor wearer. And I was like, hey, one of my buddies is a sick athlete, and I'm sure he'd do it. And so he goes, yeah, meet me up. And I hooked them up, and the guy traveled with a catcher's mitt just so he could pitch because he's a pitcher. And so I walk up with my buddy because this guy's going to meet him on the flight deck and pitch to him. And dude, this guy's a kind of a dorky looking radio man, like stuck inside all day, pale white, like, and he comes walking out and he's got like a baseball hat on and the fat dip in, and he looked like a totally different person. And I was like, oh, this dude's a badass. And sure enough, like, I couldn't have caught the pitches that he was throwing. He's just ripping those things at 90 miles an hour. So that little bit of confidence at the moment of execution is a powerful thing, and it lets you get into the mode of, I think it lets you let go of worry, right? Because you're like, oh, what if I blow this shot again? Freaking Leif's going to make fun of me, and Dudley's going to think I'm an idiot, and the freaking photographers here, like, all that stuff could be going through your head. Or you just be like, are you filming? Because you're going to want to catch this. You know what I mean?
Here's a free lesson. Yeah. Shooter McGavin style.
Yeah. So that's a good thing, and it doesn't just work for you. Yeah.
You let me in on that little secret right after you made this ridiculous shot. I think it was like an 84-yard bomb through like two trees. and I think I just shellacked one of the trees, and because everyone's like talking smack over my shoulder, because that definitely gets in your head, and you got up there, and there was smack talk coming at you too, and you just slid it right in there, freaking nailed the target, and I was like, that was a freaking money shot, and you said, I gotta let you know the secret. And as I thought about that, I'm like, that's a really powerful thing, because it really there is something in when you're second guessing yourself at the moment of execution. It does not help you at all.
Terrible.
Second guessing yourself about whether or not you're fully prepared in the weeks and months up to something. Sure, that's great. Push yourself hard. Positive. But in that moment of execution, to be able to clear your mind and execute with confidence, I think it's a really powerful tactic to employ.
And for instance, right now, I could be like, yo, I shot so good at tack, I'm freaking good to go. That's the disease of victory, right? That's like, oh, I'm good to go. That's what I will not do that. I'm going to shoot even harder than I ever have, because these are sort of like my months getting ready for September right now. I could easily go, oh, I'm freaking kind of dialed this year. You know what I mean? It'd be so easy to do that. But then what will the results be? The results will be freaking a disaster on game day. So you got it. Once you switch that on, and when you're done, cool. Go back to, just like we go on an operation, we're confident going out there, maybe even just borderline a little bit cocky. We get back. What do we do? What can we do better? What mistakes do we make? How can we improve? So you got to flip that switch, a little bit of confidence, up the confidence a little bit. As soon as you get done, go right back to where you were. Humble. Start working. I think this is the last thing I want to talk about when it comes to culture, and that is what I call material items. And we've talked about it a little bit already. These are the t-shirts, these are the patches, these are the uniforms, the material things that represent the culture and unify the culture. And I got another piece in here from Hackworth. And this is a part of About Face that I haven't talked about too much. And this is when Hackworth is in Vietnam, he stood up an element that was called the Tigers. And there's a bunch of controversy about them. They ended up with like war crime charges after he left. I haven't gone into much detail about them, but they're a huge part. It's just one of the many parts of About Face that there's 850 pages in there, and I just haven't covered it all in the podcast. But in one of those things, he talks about this. He was also very fond of snipers, which is where I got all my fondness for snipers. So he had set up a sniper program in one of these battalions. He says this: as with Night Hunter, the daytime sniper program was tremendously successful. The result of it all was that the snipers, like the Tigers before them in the 1327, became my pets. I called them my little babies and showered them with attention and recognition for their contribution to the battalion's efforts. I even gave them their own uniforms, camouflage, tiger stripe, with the added touch of black berets with a red recondo patch sewed on. So what are you doing? Why is Hackworth doing this? Why didn't Leif in his little arguments to me with Seth why didn't they pull it? See, if I give them About Face, they'd be like, hey, Jocko, Hackworth said patch is good to go. I would have been like, good point. Let's do it. But they didn't quite get there, but that's the thing. And, we also write about, hey, it's not about what you hang on your wall. It's not about the PowerPoint that you make, but you have to remember that these material things are not just words. They can become part of your culture. They can absolutely become part of your culture. So things like t-shirts, things like baseball hats, things like patches, things like coins. I mean, there's people that are obsessive with coins or with patches or with baseball hats or with t-shirts, all these things. And you can make them mean something. You really can. My son went to a camp. It doesn't exist anymore, unfortunately, because it was freaking outstanding. J-Rob Intensive Wrestling Camps. And at J-Rob, the whole goal is to get this shirt, get a t-shirt, a freaking t-shirt that says, I did it. That's what it says. You get a t-shirt that says, I did it. You're not guaranteed that t-shirt. And they grade you the whole time. There's demerits you get. You can't miss so and so stuff. Like it's hard to get the shirt. I don't know what the percentage is, but you're not guaranteed the shirt at all. My kid had a badly sprained ankle going there, and it didn't get any better while he's wrestling 3 times a day and doing conditioning. So the last thing you have to do to get the shirt was you have to do a 12-mile run. And there's no time limit, but you just got to complete it. And so I was talking to him, and his ankle's been hurting the whole time, and he's been taping it up and everything and trying to push through. And now he's got to do a 12-mile run on a bum ankle. And I'm talking to him at night, and I said, how are you doing? And he said, oh, I'm doing okay. And I said, how's your ankle? And he says, oh, it's hurt bad. And I said, what are you going to do? And he said, I'm going to tape it up so it can't move, and I'm going to do that fucking run. And sure enough, he went out there, whatever, and knocked out that 12 miles on that bad leg. Why? Because he wanted that T-shirt. He wanted that T-shirt. And so what are you doing? What's your culture? What are you doing inside your organization? I mean, think about getting a Trident. Like, it may not seem like a big deal, but when you were young, man, like, that's a big deal. You get your Trident, Eagle, Globe, and Anchor.
Oh, yeah.
What's up with that, dude?
Yeah, so all through boot camp, you can't wear the Marine Corps insignia on your uniform outside of the one that's stitched on the cover. Mm-hmm. And on graduation day of boot camp, your drill instructor hands you your first Eagle, Globe, and Anchor that you can wear on your uniform, and it's a big deal. Do
they give that after the Crucible now?
I believe so. Yeah. I think they've changed it up since.
Because I've seen a bunch of muddy dudes with tears in their eyes getting that EGA, boy.
I'm not opposed to that. The Crucible, I think, was a week or 2 before you graduate boot camp. Oh, okay. So it's right there at the end of the line of training. So that seems appropriate to me too. Plus the level of just in the game you are after the Crucible too. I can definitely see that.
Yeah. Well, this is that's the call, right?
Yeah.
You got them freaking broken down. You got them fatigued, sleep deprivation, emotionally freaking at their lowest. And then you roll in with that EGA and a hand salute, bro. Yeah, you're ready to rock and roll. Yeah. USMC, Semper Fi.
I will say that at graduation, when I got mine, it was pretty powerful because you've got your platoon with you, you've got the people in the stands, you've got family there and stuff, and it's pretty powerful that way too, I will say.
Yeah, pretty legit. So, what are you doing? Are you making patches? Leif Babin's over there making freaking patches for Tasky the Bruiser.
Heck yeah.
I mean, I think if it means something, right? If they just handed you an Eagle, Globe, and Anchor, it wouldn't really mean anything. But you actually, hey man, you went through the toughest boot camp, of any U.S. military service. I think that's pretty generally widely accepted that Marine Corps boot camp sets the standard there. So it means something, man. You go through BUDS, and then SQT and graduate, get your Trident. I mean, it took you a year and a half to get that thing, with a 70-80% attrition rate. Like, it means something. And I think that when you create something around that, it's part of that unique identity. It's part of that unique culture. It gives you some idea of hey, we're different. We're separate. I think that's what it was for us for the patches, really. That's why we violated your order. There's not too many direct orders I've gotten from Jocko ever, and there's certainly not I don't recall any other time where I've directly violated an order that you told me. But when Seth and I came up, with this idea of hey, we should get some patches made. When I threw it out there to him as an idea, I didn't actually know what he was going to say. I thought he might be like, dude, Jocko said, no, man, we can't do it. And he was like, dude, we got to freaking do it. And we did it because, if I think about, I didn't really give it a lot of thought at the time about dissect why that was important to us. But it was important to us because we knew that this was a unique and historic unit that we were a part of. We wanted to have that identity. We wanted to actually go have some impact on the battlefield, and I felt like a unit patch would be really important to that. So I think, when you're thinking about building the culture of your team, what are those things that you can do? We've seen some of our clients, where they've got stickers for their hard hats, that they're, and you got to earn that extreme ownership sticker. You got to earn that cover move sticker. When you actually do something that sets a standard, it means something, and you get recognized in front of your peers and put something like that on your uniform. I think that just creates part of that culture so that people know this is what the standard is. This is what good looks like. I want to aspire to actually get that, and I think it's a very powerful thing. I don't remember the exact quote by Napoleon, but he said something along the lines of, "It's amazing what a man will do for a worthless piece of cloth." When he's talking about a ribbon that's being awarded to you for your valor on the battlefield, you went and put your life on the line, or maybe even gave your life. And you're getting recognized with this kind of worthless piece of cloth that actually costs nothing, and yet this is the public recognition of, hey, here's what I did to actually earn that thing. I want to earn that thing. I want to actually be special. I want to be unique. I think there's something really powerful in that.
Yeah, and you can, this is the cool thing. You can create this. You can create these kind of things inside your organization, and all these things that we're talking about will help you create a culture, a strong culture. It will help define who you are, what you do, and how you do it. And if you have a strong culture, it is one of the most powerful things that you can have inside an organization. So build it and protect it. That's culture. Speaking of building, we're trying to build up, right? We're trying to get stronger.
Always
trying to get stronger. If you need to get stronger, you're going to need the right fuel. We recommend use Jocko fuel. Get yourself some Molk. Get yourself some energy drink. What flavor you got over there, Leif?
I got a little sour apple sniper right now, representing for JP Donnell.
That's the sour apple. I'm on the tactical tea train, which Kerry has entered the train. You're on board the train.
I'm on board the train.
What
officially.
happened?
So I've been going through kind of cycles. I was on the orange train for a long time, and then I got on the pink mist train for a little while.
Yep, I can see that.
Yeah, and now the wave is the 50-50 tactical.
Yeah. Underrated, under-recognized
for sure.
Yeah, and it's because we made the flavors better. And like, I loved the old one, but some people didn't love the old one, and maybe they shied away from it. But if you like that Arnold Palmer, and let's face it, bro, an Arnold Palmer, good Arnold
it's
Palmer.
Summertime too.
It's summertime.
I think that might be playing into it. It's July.
Yeah, it's July. We're going summertime. Arnold Palmer. Salute to Arnold Palmer. Salute. He was like, hey, give me some tea, put some lemonade in it. That's what we're doing. So good call. But I said, that's if I'm out when I'm drinking, that's what I'm drinking. Like if Leif's like, hey, let's go get crazy tonight, I'm like, cool, I'll have an Arnold Palmer at the bar, right? Tastes freaking good, man.
Actually, what you normally order is iced tea, unsweetened iced tea with a shot of lemonade. Just a shot
of lemonade.
I gotta say though, man, the 50-50 tackle is tasty. Obviously, Citrus Psycho is my flavor, and that's my go-to. But I love to mix it up, and that is a close second there. I usually rotate between that, the 50-50 tackle, Citrus Psycho, and like pink mist.
Yeah,
and the Dak Savage is always
These
good
are
too.
all good, man. And it's nice. Like, you could probably figure out a rotation like working out where you're like, look, tactical tea, pink mist, tactical tea, Citrus Psycho. Like, you can figure out a good rotation where you're just...
In Texas, it's been freaking 100 degrees. So, like, the ice cold 50-50 tactical is good. I tell you what else is good. Ice cold is the Tropic Thunder.
Yeah,
it's freaking awesome.
It's just freaking tasty. Yeah. So, anyways, JockoFuel.com. Get yourself some Molk, some RTDs. God, those things are good. And honestly, they're a little too convenient, right? They're a little too convenient because you got that RTD and you can get 30 grams of protein in 14 seconds. Just get jacked. Let's go. There's a little bit when you have to work for it a little bit, when you got to get the shaker, when you're doing that whole gig, but when you got that 30 grams at a cap twist, boom, it's going down the hatch.
It's awesome, but it actually, I mean, man, if I've been tracking the macros, and it's, unless you're just going to eat freaking ground turkey and bison all the time, like it's hard to hit that. You know, it's hard to hit that freaking 200 grams of protein. And those RTDs are awesome for that. Just hammer one down post jiu-jitsu roll or coming out of the CrossFit gym.
It almost feels like cheating. You know, because it's supposed to be harder to get protein.
Yeah, that's true.
Right?
That's true.
Meat, mixing up the milkshake, it almost feels like it should be harder. It's weird.
Have you ever done, because this has sort of become sort of a protocol for me, get done like on a Saturday, Sunday, wake up, lift, run, come to jiu-jitsu, go on the way to jiu-jitsu, which I know is technically cheating, kind of, maybe a little bit. Get there, train, get done, milk cookie, milk. There's 44 grams of protein. Done. Like, we're done. And you know what's interesting about that is then you feel full. You don't feel, and this is after a workout, run, and then jiu-jitsu. Like, this is a lot of energy expended, so you're going to be hungry, but you go and get that much protein in you, and you're like, oh, I'm good to go. Which means the afternoon, you're not like just food coma from a freaking slab of meat in a bunch, whatever. You know what I mean? That'll put you down. You'll be like, yo, you're like Sunday after Saturday afternoon, Sunday afternoon, you got podcast to prep, and you're like looking at the freaking computer, and it's starting like the eyes are getting heavy because you just ate whatever, a pound and a half of freaking meat. No, you're just like light stomach, boom, 44 grams of protein, good to go. That's my recommendation. That's my recommendation out there. JockoFuel.com. Go get it. We got everything that you need. We got Joint Warfare, Super Krill, Vitamin D3, Cold War. Dude, Time War. I got, being out on the road, Jocko Live, got a lot of reports on Time War. Just that redirection of life, that being on step, that I feel good now, which is a very broad statement to make, and I can attest to it. Like, oh, I feel good now. That's what I feel like. So check it out. We got it for you there. Wawa, you can get it at Vitamin Shop, GNC. We're in the military commissaries. I was telling some military folks the other day, just grab one. We're going in the exchanges right now, like the NEX, which is a big deal. Because I know all you freaking 24-year-old Marines, you're not shopping at the commissary. All you 18-year-old soldiers, you're not going to the commissary. That's too much planning. But you're definitely stopping by the exchange. You know, 21-year-old sailor coming back from a 3-week exercise, you're not going to the commissary. That's like a big deal. But you're going to the NEX. So we're in there. AFES, Hannaford, Dash Stores, Maryland, Wakefern, ShopRite, HEB. How we representing?
Representing strong at HEB.
Tejas.
Good times.
Yeah. Like end caps and stuff. Like, it's on. So the reason it's on, the reason that we're able to do that in HEB is because you all down there in Tejas are just getting after it. So appreciate it. Same thing with Meyer up in the Midwest. Same thing. Like, you guys are crushing it. So that's a huge deal. Harris Teeter, another one. Appreciate it. Lifetime Fitness, Shields. And by the way, small gyms out there, jiu-jitsu gyms, CrossFit gyms. If you want your people to get better and give them every advantage you can, email jfsales@jockofuel.com and we can hook you up. You can start to sell stuff inside your store. There you go, jockofuel.com. Check it out.
That's actually both still at jiu-jitsu, our jiu-jitsu gym, and well as CrossFit Second Wave, our CrossFit gym. They got all the Jocko products right there. So you get done pre-workout, jump on the train, the milk train post-workout. It's awesome.
So we got, this is Leif Babin protocol. You got CrossFit Second Wave, which is in Dripping Springs, Texas, right? That's where you're training your physical fitness. And then you've got Stoic Jiu-Jitsu, which, by the way, we just did a podcast with Ryan Holiday. I didn't even mention Stoic. I talked to him about it, but we weren't recording.
Correct. This was after the podcast. Or before.
We already wrapped it up. Yeah. So Stoic Jiu-Jitsu, also in Dripping Springs. Is it in Dripping Springs?
In Dripping Springs.
So you can train that Jiu-Jitsu. You can train that CrossFit. Go get a Fran together. Go get an Anna together. Go get a Grace together. Go get one of those workouts. Go get it. And help yourself. You know, Leif, I know you've gone through some like injuries.
For sure.
And you know, you and I have talked about that. And the attitude is when your back is hurt and you can't deadlift, the idea isn't I can't deadlift. The idea is I have to get back to deadlifting. When you hurt your shoulder, the idea isn't, I can't do shoulder presses. The idea is I need to get back to shoulder. Get out the PVC. I'm no stranger. I was talking about this with Bert Soren. Like, I'll get out the PVC all day. I can't do an overhead press right now with any weight because my shoulder's tweaked. Cool. Where's the PVC? I'm going to try and keep that mobility up. And this is something that I need to focus on right now because my mobility right now sucks. And so I've been trying to open that game back up. And it takes a while. You blow it off, and I'm the worst. I have the worst attitude. Stretching bores me. It makes me mad. I don't like it. I'd rather throw something, hit something, choke something. It's so far down on my list of pleasure in life, but it's what I need to do. So that's what you got to do. You got a little issue, work through it. Do what you can. And that's the cool thing about CrossFit. You can adapt to what's happening. You can't do a heavy deadlift right now? Okay, that's cool. You can do burpees instead. Or you can't do an overhead press right now because your shoulder's tweaked? That's okay. Do a one-arm snatch with the other arm that's working. So that's what you got to do. You got to scale these things. But the worst thing you can do is get off the bus and stay off the bus. Same thing with jiu-jitsu. You look, sometimes you got to get off the bus, right? You go on. I just did, it was 2 weeks ago, I was gone for like 4 straight weeks off the bus. Like I didn't train. I was on the road. I think I trained twice. And then I came back and it was like I got back on a Friday night and I know what I was staring at because Saturday, you know what's on Saturday. So I'm like, okay, I see the bus and there's all kinds of reasons not to get it back on because you haven't been training and the guys are all ready and you're freaking tired and you've been on the road and all these excuses to not get on the bus. I'm going to tell you right now, get on the freaking bus. Get back on the bus. Same thing with your whole workout program. You couldn't do something because you were tired, you were hurt, you were sick, you were hurt. Cool. Get back on the bus. Dude, my back's tweaked right now. Today I posted dealing with it. I'm sure people have no idea what I'm talking about. Well, you know what I did? I freaking did what I could. I couldn't do my normal workout, but I went in there and did what I could. That's what I'm going to do. And it's not like I've got some major back. You got a freaking little tweak. I'm not going to tweak it worse, but I'm not going to sit around and just let it freeze up and lock up and let the clock keep ticking. So that's what we're doing. What do you got?
And nobody cares. Nobody cares if you've not been on the bus. Nobody noticed.
Yeah.
Nobody even. Yeah. It's you in your brain thinking somebody cares about you not being on the bus.
Yeah.
Nobody even noticed, bro.
Yeah. There's 2 ego things going on. Number one, now I'm going to get tapped out by freaking Fred because I've been gone. That's part of your ego. The other part of your ego is you think Fred cares. You think that Fred's been watching and plotting on you. He doesn't care. Fred's worried about Fred. He's not worried about you. So get back on the bus, people.
That you mentioned me having a bunch of injuries, and I think that's the worst thing that you can do is the not train. I mean, I think the do what you can, like you were just talking about with Peter T on the podcast that he was on with you. I think that's. You got to do what you can, and that's been something that's game changer for me, and it gets me back in the gym. And if I got to scale it or I got to do something different in the workout, like cool, no big deal. I got to tell you, man, too. Speaking of Jocko Fuel products, though, if I'm hitting that krill oil, or the joint warfare stuff, that makes a massive difference. I notice that so much when I'm off of it, and it is something that just it enables me to keep going, to get after it, and just to stay on the path. That's been a huge one.
Yeah, those products those are some of our most highly subscribed. Actually, joint warfare is our most subscribed product. So people that just are going to be they're on that train. There's a reason for it. It's exactly what you said. When you go off of it, you feel it. So get on the bus, get on Jocko Fuel. Let's go, rock and roll. Also, OriginUSA.com. We're making stuff in America, and it was very interesting talking to Ryan Holiday about this and what happened with American Apparel. And he understood so clearly the idea of greenwashing. You know what greenwashing is?
I do.
So greenwashing is, hey, we have a company, we make shirts, and we give 1% of our profit or 3% of our profit to environmental causes because we love the environment. And you go, oh, wow, that's really nice. Where do you make your shirts? And they're like, oh, we make them in China. We make them in Bangladesh, wherever. We're at a place where there's no environmental protection whatsoever. That's what they're doing. So they destroy the environment and then throw a little 1% Band-Aid on it. It's called greenwashing. It's lies. That's what it is. And we're not doing that at Origin USA. And they do the same thing with their workers. I read some freaking little catalog, online catalog, and it was like, and our workers earn a fair wage. According to who? According to Mao Zedong? Is that what we're doing? Is that who it's according to? A fair wage. Bullshit. You're liars. And then you call and you try and make it sound like you're doing the right thing. You're not. You're full of shit. If you really truly, this is the facts. If they really truly wanted to do the right thing, if they really truly cared about the environment, if they really truly cared about people and workers, they would not manufacture that stuff overseas. Period. End of story. Period. End of story. They would not do it. They don't give a shit, and they try and make like they do. They're liars. We actually care about workers. We care about America. We care about the security and national security in this country, and we care about the environment. That's why we make it 100% here in America. So go to originusa.com and get workout gear, get jiu-jitsu gear, get hunt gear, get blue jeans, get rash guards, t-shirts, boots, get what you need. But get it from a place that is actually backing up and doing what we talk about, not throwing 1% and virtue signaling that how great we are, because they're full of shit. So that's originusa.com. It's national security, by the way. It's national security. You buy a pair of jeans. You want to help? You want to protect freedom? Cool. Go buy a pair of jeans. That is not a stretch. That is a fact. You are helping the national security of this country. You're helping the freedom of this country. You're helping people not be in slavery around the world. So originusa.com, go get some.
Also, if you want to represent on the path, go to jockostore.com. Get yourself some Discipline Equals Freedom gear. Check out that Shirt Locker subscription. We got a new shirt every month coming out with different layers portrayed by Echo Charles.
Those shirt locker shirts are legit, man. Those are awesome.
And there's a little cultural activity going on there, right? Oh. There's a cultural activity. When I was at Jocko Live and I looked out and just see shirt locker shirts, people representing on the path. That's what we're doing. And you know you can't have that Discipline Equals Freedom t-shirt and miss a workout. You know you can't do it because it's a little peer pressure from us, from all of us. We're in the game. Get in the game. JockoStore.com. Go get it.
Is this a material item?
It's a material item, 100%.
Reinforce the culture here?
Reinforce the culture.
Hell yeah.
Bond with your teammates. What team are you on? We're on the Get After It team.
DEFCOR.
Yes. We're on the DEFCOR team. What team are you on, by the way? Are you on the Slack team? Is that the team you're on? Because we're over here on the DEFCOR team. Get in the game. JockoStore.com.
My bad.
Subscribe to the podcast. Subscribe to Jocko Underground, JockoUnderground.com. Subscribe to the YouTube. We got Echelon Front YouTube channel. We've got Jocko Podcast YouTube channel. We got Jocko Fuel YouTube channel. We got Origin USA YouTube channel. They're all different stuff. You want to know what's going on inside of these various worlds? Check them out. FlipsideCanvas.com. Dakota Meyer. He's making cool stuff to hang on your wall. He's making material items to hang on your wall to keep you on the freaking path. We got a bunch of books. You know them all. If you need books, get them. And get those kid books. Get the books for the kids. I signed so many kids' books at Jocko Live, and there was probably, I don't know, maybe a total of 20 Warrior kids.
Ton of Warrior kids.
That showed up, asked questions, freaking legit, outstanding. You can tell that these kids are going to do better in life because they are on the Warrior Kid path. 100%. I guarantee it. I guarantee it. So get those books for your kids. Hackworth. We read a little Extreme Ownership today. Dichotomy of Leadership. You know the books. Go get them. Echelon Front. We have a leadership consultancy. We solve problems through leadership. That's what we do. We go inside your organization. We can help you build culture. We can help align your leadership. We can help solve whatever problems you have. Hey, what am I talking about? What do you mean, Jocko? You can solve whatever problems we have. How can you do that? We can do that through leadership, because whatever problems you have, it's a leadership problem. So go to echelonfront.com if you need our help in whatever organization you're in and whatever problems you're having. Also, we have live events. Next one, we have the muster in Dallas, but it's sold out.
Yes,
we just posted, it's sold out. So Dallas muster. Next one's going to be in San Diego, right? Dago? We're coming back to Jocko's AO, my area of operations. If you want to come to one of those musters, check it out, echelonfront.com. We also have the FTX. JP's running a bunch of those back to back down in Texas. We have Battlefield coming up. I think it's sold out. You can check. There might be a couple spots left for Little Bighorn checking out that Battlefield. A lot of lessons learned there. A lot of lessons learned. And then also we have the Women's Assembly. We got Jamie Cochran, the COO of Echelon Front. She is running a Women's Assembly in September 14th through 16th in Phoenix, Arizona. And if you didn't hear her on the podcast, when she initially said she wanted to do this, I was like negative, because the principles are the same. But what I realized, I looked at it from a jiu-jitsu perspective, and there have been many, many, many women over the years that didn't want to get on. They didn't connect with what that jiu-jitsu thing was. They didn't want to get on the freaking mats with Carrie Helton or Jocko or Echo or Leif. That looked like, I don't know what's going on, but I don't think that's not for me. But that women's class, all of a sudden they go, oh, okay, I see that. I see what's going on. Oh, there's something, you can learn techniques. Okay. And then once they come in the women's class, then they start to understand jiu-jitsu. It opens the door. Next thing you know, they're choking Carrie Helton.
Yes, sir.
That's what's going down. So same thing here, an opportunity to check these things out from Jamie Cochran's perspective. She's an outstanding leader across the board in her own right. So you can go learn from her and some of the other women on the Echelon Front team. We also have an online training academy, extremeownership.com. These are skills. Leadership is a skill. And it may not seem like it. And it may not seem like it, just like it may not seem like fighting is a skill. Like you think, oh, I can just, when I see red, no one can beat me. No, they can beat you. As a matter of fact, a 140-pound dude that knows jiu-jitsu can beat you. But I'm 210 pounds. Yep. And you'll get beat. You'll get choked out. These are skills. Leadership is a skill. And it's a skill that you use in everything that you do. It's a skill that you use even if you're the lowest ranking person in your organization. You're still in a leadership position because you have to interact with your peers and you have to lead your boss. And even if you're the lowest ranking person in your organization, guess what you still have? A girlfriend, a boyfriend, a wife, a husband, a couple kids, a little league team, the Parent Teachers Association. You're interacting with other people. That's what you're doing. And it is an actual skill to do that. And if you don't have these skills, you don't know what you're doing. And you're going to get choked out by a 140-pound individual. Don't let it happen.
We've got 2 new courses on there.
What are they?
The read back and the debrief with you and Carlos Mendez.
Okay, there you go. 2 new courses. And listen, I said this on the last one. At a minimum, please go and take the free courses that we've got on there. Go and take the Extreme Ownership Framework. Go and take that course so you can understand. This is going to help in everything that you do. In everything that you do. This is like, I'm going to give you $6,000 cash right now. What if I was like, hey, Carrie, is this going to help you if I give you $6,000 cash?
Yes.
Leif, can I give you $6,000 cash? Is that going to be helpful to you?
Bring it on.
Is that going to help some part of your life? You go and take this free course, just take $6,000 cash, put it in your pocket, because that's what it's like. All of a sudden, you're going to get help. You're going to be able to help with the things that you do. Your life is going to get a little bit better. It might even get a lot better. There's people that when they see extreme ownership and they actually comprehend it, there's people that it doesn't just change their life a little bit, it transforms their existence. I just met 30 people like that during the live events. 30 people that came up to me and in 28 seconds said that this information transformed their life, transformed the way that they are living their life. They got promoted, they kept their marriage together, they got a better relationship with their kid, on and on and on and on. So at a minimum, just go take those free classes. They're on there. Please. I'm giving it to you. Please take it. Don't want anything else from you. Just go take that because it's going to make your life better. ExtremeOwnership.com. Go check it out.
I think one thing I love so much about Extreme Ownership Academy, these online courses, is they're interactive, and they dive so deep into these principles. People, love extreme ownership and these concepts that are in there, and yet we break down each chapter, with a course there, and all the other courses that come out, the debrief course, and the relationships course, all these other courses that the read back, the course that we released. It's breaking down some small detail that got mentioned in the book, but really expanding on that and going deep, and then talking about how it applies in a real world scenario. And we do those role plays where we talk about what to do and what not to do, which is sometimes the most helpful thing, to learn. So I think those courses are. I have been deeply impressed by the amount of information that can be conveyed and how you can actually test someone's knowledge about whether or not they understand it, through these courses. So definitely it is a massive resource. As you've said, it's probably the best kept secret we have at Echelon Front, that Extreme Ownership Academy is, this is something that can absolutely change the game for you to help you understand these principles and how to apply them in your life.
Yeah. ExtremeOwnership.com. Go check it out. That's all I'm saying. And if you want to help service members, active and retired, you want to help their families, you want to help Gold Star families, check out Mark Lee's mom, Mama Lee. She's got an amazing charity organization. We know, like everyone at this table right now, Carrie, Leif, myself, we know personally people that have gone through Mama Lee's programs, and it has transformed their lives. So if you want to help a veteran, go to americasmightywarriors.org and donate or get involved however you can. And also don't forget about Micah Fink. He's up there with heroesandhorses.org. What's the latest report?
I believe Micah did a flying backflip off of a cliff edge to spear a grizzly in the back of the neck to save a couple of children on the trail.
Okay, so this is like a normal day for Micah Fink. He's just out there doing what he's doing. Seriously, he's up there taking our veterans and first responders up into the wilderness, and they are reconnecting with their souls. It's an incredibly powerful thing. He's an incredible guy. If you want to help him out, heroesandhorses.org. And if you want to connect with us on the interwebs, we're on there. Leif is on Twitter at Leif Babin. He's on the gram at Real Leif Babin. He missed out, huh? You blew it. You a little late to the game on the gram.
Actually, I actually think that back in the day when you were vehemently against social media, and my wife Jenna and our now COO Jamie Cochran conspired to launch your social media for you, even though you're vehemently against it. I think that there was one launch for me at that time on the gram as well, which now no one knows the login. So I'm Real Leif Babin.
So you're at Real Leif Babin on the gram. Are you on Threads?
I'm not.
Okay. Carrie, speaking of late to the game, Carrie with the underscore. This is like both you guys. That's like that's the red badge or what, the scarlet letter, right? The Real Leif Babin. That's scarlet letter. Underscore scarlet letter. I'm over here talking shit. I am, because guess what I got? At Jocko Willink. That's it. You can't even mess with me. You can't mess with me. I got it. I was in the game and I wasn't even in the game yet. So there you go. How you like them apples? Underscore.
I'm officially putting out the word at Carrie Hilton. I'm coming for you. So I'm not taking this from Jocko.
So do you think at Leif Babin actually exists?
It does, yeah.
And you think you might have it? I mean, if I got at Jocko Willink, you must have gotten at Leif Babin.
I think it was launched at the exact same time, but it was.
This is a bummer, dude.
Too difficult to recover. Yeah.
Are you on Threads?
Yes.
Okay, so we got in the game. Are you underscore?
Yes. It's connected to the Instagram
I know.
profile.
So you're connected to that underscore.
Correct.
That's got to be a bummer.
It is kind of a bummer, yeah.
Yeah. Just always having to throw that in there.
Just eats at me.
Constantly reminded. So you're going to try and you're coming at Kerry Helton?
I am.
Do you reach out? How do you do it?
Last time I just DM'd the guy. Yeah.
Did he respond?
Nah, because he hadn't been active in like, years on it or something. So maybe he just left it and
just squatting on your soul.
Squatting on the
Dude, keep that underscore, bro. Gives you character.
Yeah, sure.
Nope, you can't make it cool, bro. You can't. All right. Yeah, if you want to connect with us, that's where we're at. Just be careful, because as Leif pointed out, I used to be vehemently anti-social media, and I still kind of am, because I recognize that there is an algorithm in there that's powerful. That the smartest group of engineers they could assemble get together every day and figure out how to make you spend more time on that thing. That's what they want. That's what they're begging for. That's what they're manipulating you. That's what they're doing. So it works. We know that people get addicted to it. We don't want that to happen to you. So just be careful. Just be careful of the algorithm. Keep your watch your six, because the algorithm's sneaking up on you. And thanks to all the troops that are out there in uniform right now, holding the line. Thank you for what you do to protect us. And the same goes to our police, law enforcement, firefighters, paramedics, EMTs, dispatchers, correctional officers, Border Patrol, Secret Service, and all you first responders out there. Thank you for holding the line here at home. And to everyone else out there, just remember that the way you act and what you do is who you are. Who you are is your culture, your personal culture. That's how you live your life. So be someone you can trust. Be a fighter. Don't allow any slack at all. Instead, be a hardcore recondo. Let that be your culture. Let that be who you are. Let that be what you do. And let that be how you do it. November, Foxtrot, Sierra. And until next time, this is Leif and Kerry and Jocko out.